July 29th, 2024, and this is our commission workshop budget for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. And Karen, would you do a roll call for us just for the
Commissioner DeVito,
present?
Commissioner Lori,
Present.
Commissioner Banks,
Present.
Commissioner Burton,
Present.
Mayor Myers,
Present.
Code Enforcement Pamela Taylor,
Present.
CRA Manager Christina Marie,
Present.
Director of Public Works Keith Harris.
Present.
Director of Finance Steve Coughlin,
Present.
City Manager Charles Rudd.
Here.
And I am here. Karen Hayes.
Okay, everyone is present. With that, Commissioner Banks, if you would lead us in invocation, please. Stand if you're able.
Father, once again, we give you thanks and praise, and we lift up your name. We pray that you continue to bless us and lead us in the way that we should go to benefit the community. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. One person. And those of you that are out there in virtual land, thank you for being here today. Charles, with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're going to start out with the CRA budget, but first we wanted to give you a presentation on some available technology that is out there that can aid us in our economic development efforts. Placer AI is a unique company, and they've been we've been seeing them around in Main Street conferences and redevelopment conferences. So I thought it'd be good to show you what's available. It's a subscription service, and we'll talk about that. It's in the budget, the preliminary budget. And so we're going to have a presentation for you to understand how we might use that data, and you can decide if it's important to us as we go through our budget negotiations. So I'm going to turn it over to Placer AI to introduce himself and give us a little presentation.
Appreciate the intro, Charles. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Brendan Strega over here.
Can you all hear?
Placer.ai, account executive here. I appreciate all of your time today. So my plan today was to give you a quick overview of Placer, so you all have an understanding of who we are, what we do. I'll walk through the demo. It should take about 20 to 25 minutes. And then I'll leave the last 5 minutes. I'll kind of hop off and you guys can kind of discuss internally. Can you guys hear me all right?
We're trying to get you.
Are we good, Charles?
Hang on a second. If the computer's at 100%. It is.
Yeah. It's all right. This should be a part of it. That's right. It's on the front.
It's a long one left on, it's like right here.
All right.
Okay.
I will just have to go with this. Oops.
You okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will start by sharing my screen, everyone, and if you could all give me a thumbs up when you can see it, that'd be great.
Yeah. You can get bigger?
Let me see if I can make it bigger. Hang on. Screen.
Yeah. I'll kind of zoom in on my end as well. It might help.
Where?
Full screen.
You're on full screen. It says window. Full screen.
Helps a little bit. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great. Placer.ai, in a nutshell, everyone, we are a location analytics company which leverages mobile location data to provide market intelligence on any physical place in the U.S. So we do this by harnessing data from millions of mobile devices and then anonymously aggregating that data to learn about any place, such as retailers, shopping centers, neighborhoods, or even any road, street, or highway. So not only can we tell you how many people visit the place, but we can also tell you where they live, where they work, and where else they like to go. In just 4 short years, we've become the leading data provider for over 4,000 customers at this point, currently adding about 25 to 30 new customers each week across 30 different industries. And as a result of that effort, we now work with over 1,300 civic clients across the country. So those are, cities, counties, states, downtown development organizations, economic development organizations, pretty much everything across the board. Also working with over 40 cities throughout Florida. At this point, we work with Panama City, Winter Park, and City of Stewart, to name a few. And as hundreds of more have come on board, we've now expanded into restaurant groups, financial services, manufacturing companies, and even airports. So I'm going to hop over to the platform itself here. And Charles, I had the EVA Lion Park pulled up for today's report. I believe we covered that last time, so I thought this would be a good example. But let me come back to the homepage here. So what you're currently all looking at is Placer's homepage. I like to compare our Explore tab to Google Maps. So you can come in here and type in any address or property, and what will currently populate is what is already in our system. So for you guys, if you were to work with us, we have any location, park, downtown event venue, anything you would want to see data for on a regular basis, it would then appear here with search for. So I had the EVA Lion Park pulled up for today's presentation. So first thing I want to point your attention to is our add competitor feature. So we can actually add up to 8 competing locations at once to view visitation side by side. Or we could look at EVA Lion Park 8 different times over 8 different time frames to view visitation towards it. Next thing I'll point your attention to is our date range. So the data defaults to the last 12 months of visitation. We can actually come in here and select a custom date range, and the data goes all the way back to January of 2017 up until the past couple of days. So like I mentioned, being able to look at, EVA Lion Park 8 different times over 8 different time frames, looking at visitation towards the park before COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, how has foot traffic increased to the park? Has it decreased, and why is that? I'm just going to leave it on the last 12 months of visitation for our demo today. So first thing I do want to call out in our overview section is our metrics portion. So this feature here is really the bread and butter of our data, and this is the area where we get the phrase foot traffic data from. So in other words, how many people visited the park, and how many times did they visit. So first item I want to call out here to you all is panel visits. So panel visits refers to the number of mobile phones observed by Placer that have visited the park over the last 12 months. We then take the panel visits number and extrapolate it out to account for the rest of the US population, and that's the number you're seeing in visitors. So visitors is that extrapolated number that refers to the unique singular people that have visited the park over the last 12 months. And then visits up here refers to how many times those people visited this property.
And just so you know that on our screen, that our focus is a little soft, so we can't read what those numbers are. So if you could tell us what those numbers are.
Yeah,
Visitors.
here as well. And so for panel visits, again, the cell phones that we observed over the last 12 months, we saw about 1.6 thousand total panel visits. Through algorithms and statistical modeling, we extrapolate that number out to see about 9.6 thousand total unique visitors that came to the park over the last 12 months. Those
9,600.
Those 9.6 thousand unique visitors came about 2.18 times. So we just multiply those numbers together to see about 20 or just under 21,000 total visits to the park over the last 12 months. Does zooming in help, Charles?
Yes, it did, very much.
So coming down to visit trends next, which basically just breaks out visitation on either a daily, weekly, or monthly frequency. And we can kind of see these spikes in the graph here. Here's one on February 24th. We saw about 874 total visits on that day.
That was soul food.
And I'm Charles, I think we discussed this, there was an event on April 6th here.
Yes.
Yes, so on April 6th, we saw about just over 3,500 total visits to the park.
Huh.
And I can actually click on some of these daily visits, right, this specific day, and we can look at the stats a bit more around it, right? What day it happened on Saturday, April 6th, how many visits we saw, about 3.6 thousand total visits. What that looks like versus last year, versus the previous Saturday, versus the average Saturday, even though the weather was like on the day. I'm gonna switch over to our trade area tab next and show you all our heat map. So what this is looking at is the home locations of the visitors to the park over the last 12 months. So let me zoom back in a little bit so you all can see this better. So as I come down here, I can actually zoom into the map itself. Those red pockets you all are seeing are where your higher number of visits are coming from, and then blue being on the lower side. And I'll zoom out for all of you too, and you'll kind of see there's visitation pretty much all across the state.
I have a question. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got these numbers of the number of people that have visited the park for certain days,
Uh-huh.
correct? Where are those numbers coming from?
Cell phones.
So it's just cell phones?
And then they aggregate what that could be in terms of population of visitors.
Correct, and just to give you guys a little more background on that as well, so we're partnered with over 500 mobile applications, and so basically when someone downloads one of those apps and opts into location services, that's how we have the location of the device. And we're in about 10% of the US population smartphones. That's statistically significant enough to account for the other 90% of the US population. Through those panel visits or those cell phones visiting the park, to account for the other 90% through statistical modeling and algorithms, that's how we extrapolate that number out to account for the rest of the US population. And as I come down a little further with our visitors by origin feature, which breaks down, where these people are coming from on a zip code level. So we can actually hover over any of these zip codes and tell you how many total visits you got from each zip code. Within the 32112 zip code, we saw about 9.3 thousand visits to the park. So about half of those total visits over the last 12 months.
Which makes sense. Can you show us where everyone came from on Catfish Day on April 6th? Yeah,
I think that was that spread you saw.
was that, no, I think that was April 12th.
Was that origin map, was that for the Catfish Festival day or for that whole year?
So this is looking over the last 12 months. What we could, instead of looking at the last 12 months, we could just look at the Catfish days if you would like to.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. And that was, what were the dates?
April 6th.
April 6th of
April
this year?
6th. So yeah, we'll go to April 6th, 2024. And now we're just looking at that 1 day's worth of data here now. And just to confirm that, if I come back to overview, there you go. So it's now showing that just that 1 day's worth of visits to the park. That 3.6 thousand number. So if I come back in the trade area, just hit a refresh on this.
Is that the map of above, at the top of your screen?
No, it's not, it's just, I think that's wrong.
Unexpected error.
My Wi-Fi has been very slow today, sorry.
It happens.
There we go. So yeah, coming back to metrics, and then I'm gonna come back in the trade area. So now this heat map is now filtered for just that single day of visitation.
Wow. So that's,
Look, there I am.
Okay, so there's 3,500, let's say, people that came that day. So are we doing any comparisons with some of our other events that we're doing?
We could with this software.
Okay, we haven't done anything.
No, this is just for demonstration
Just
purposes.
a demonstration for that.
Right, yeah, and just to cover that quickly, right, it's as easy as just hitting add competitor, right? And you would pull up that other location of another event, and then you can immediately view it side by side.
Right.
Yes.
What degree of accuracy is that?
I'm sorry.
Accuracy, what degree of accuracy?
Yeah, good question. So just to give you some background around that, right, we work with, not only 1,300 civic clients, like I mentioned earlier, we work with some of the biggest retailers in the space, right, like Best Buy, Target, Dollar General. They're constantly back testing, our data against theirs, right? They take their ground truth data like people counters, transaction data, from their stores, and they basically stack it up against ours. We're constantly coming between a 93 and 98% accuracy rate.
So it's in the trade at 98%.
Yeah, and Dollar General, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you think?
Yes, Dollar General and some other retailers.
Yeah, better way, okay.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
So I don't know if you can hear me, because I sure can't hear you very well.
Me
I mean, it's like strange. So for cities specifically, do you know what do most cities use the data for? Can you tell us that?
Yeah, so it's pretty much used all across the board, right, in terms of like departments that are using our data. We work with the economic development departments, the Parks and Rec, the Public Works, pretty much all across the board. When it comes to economic development, cities are using us to understand what types of businesses are a good fit in their city, right? They're able to view the data in a way that might support their theories about, hey, we need a Trader Joe's or a Walmart, right? They then take this type of data to that potential retailer or restaurant and use it to leverage them to come to their cities. When it comes to, Parks and Rec departments, they're using us to understand, what parks are being used the most. What parks should we spend more money in? What parks should we be writing grants for? And things along those lines. And being able to understand their marketing efforts, right? When it's marketing for a specific business, a specific park, being able to understand, right, on a heat map level, where these people are coming from, where should we focus our marketing efforts, right? And looking at that from a zip code level and doing the same thing with that information. Those are just some of the ways that cities are using us. And there's plenty more. And what I can do, and Charles, I think I shared this with you as well, but there are some use cases and case studies that I could follow up after today's demo for you guys to look over.
And can you show we track where they go after the event? You could show a list of destinations.
Yep, I was getting to that here. So yeah, just to finish up this zip code, I just wanted to also show you the year-over-year change feature. So for the event, it's going to tell us where are we increasing visitation from year over year. So yeah, going back to what Charles actually just mentioned, I am going to come into visitor journey next, and I'm going to scroll down to favorite places here. So what favorite places is looking at is, since we monitor the cell phones 24/7, we can tell you the people that came to the Catfish event, what other properties did they visit over that entire day. And this is showing us the top 10.
You zoom in on that?
Yes, and I'm going to zoom in, and just for, you might see, right, the Catfish Festival showing up as number 1.
Yeah.
It's because we created a custom place of interest. It just has to be verified by placers. So, we don't even have to look at the festival. I would just look at 2 down.
So Wendy's, Wendy's.
Can you zoom in a little more?
Yeah,
Can you read
I'm
it?
trying to come to
So
something.
Wendy's, Victoria, something ice
Vincent's.
cream,
The pink ice cream building.
the Big Lake Antiques, and much more. Building at 4 North Summit Street, Catfish Festival, 3 Bananas, Eagle Line Park, Walmart. which obviously a few of those are kind of
Yeah.
not accurate. But like, we could use this to, say we wanted to help Three Bananas develop a marketing campaign. We can look at Three Bananas, see where their customers are coming from and help them plan better. Or we can look at anything. So if we want to look at Winn-Dixie and see where does everybody actually live that shops at Winn-Dixie,
Right.
we can do that.
With this, and
Yeah.
with any of these events,
With the events,
it gives you, because that's something else that I have an issue with on the TDC is that, what's the economic impact when we're giving out this money? How do we really have a count for who's coming here, how they're coming here?
And where they're coming from.
Yeah, exactly, where they're coming from and what kind of an economic impact it's having on the community. This shows, you can get all your data from right here. For new businesses wanting to come in, also, this is, I could see where it would be very important.
You'll know if an advertising campaign like do radio in Palm Coast, if that worked, the Catfish Festival or that kind of stuff. And newspaper advertising, any of that, and we can.
Yeah, track it.
So how much does this cost?
Is that-
I mean, I don't
So, go ahead.
see anymore, I'm pretty.
Yeah, so I just wanted to also show, so this is style 1 through 10 as well, right? This list goes on and on. Here's 11 through 22.
Baja Taco, Express Mart, Circle K, Circle K.
So this helps
So
us.
much they think.
The other thing this helps us with is oftentimes, and we get a lot of people that don't want events here, they don't feel that it benefits the businesses.
Yeah.
This shows how many people and how it actually, the feed off from those events does benefit a business.
People went to Producers Hardware, Dollar General, Circle K, Baja Taco, Express Mart, 2 other Circle Ks.
Yeah.
And Center State Bank, I guess, to use the ATM. So, I mean,
Yeah, so that's helpful, that's helpful for event planners too, that are wanting to put events on, that helps also. How the impact it's gonna have on the outlying businesses in the area.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so coming up here too, I'm gonna just zoom out for just a second. In our visitor journey tab, right, we have favorite places, and if I scroll up here to our spider chart here in visitor journey, so what favorite places told us was over that entire day, what other properties did these people visit? So somebody could have came to the park, went back home, and then went to like the grocery store later on. What this spider chart is telling us is where these people were directly before coming to the festival, and then where they went to directly leaving the festival. So let me zoom in on this as well.
people to high school. And through
The ice
the,
cream, home, other
and this is his junior afterwards,
kind of
the
ace.
back ladies.
I always like to toggle home and work off too, right? So we can see some of, more businesses pop up here as well.
Okay. So what did you turn off homework? Okay. So now it's just showing the businesses before and the businesses after.
So even after they went to a food festival, 5% went to Three Bananas.
Oh, we ran out of food, so.
Yeah.
We didn't have any more food to sell.
Well, where it says bad ladies, that they went to, they're probably Palmeiras, because Palmeiras is right next to the old bad ladies.
I was gonna say, there is no back there.
Well, I know that's, but it's
That's what I'm
adaptation,
saying, there's, to put it, there's no back ladies.
but it's still registering somewhere.
Yeah.
Or it's using an address from Facebook, so whatever it was.
Oh.
It's just trying to match.
Okay.
It's automated. So.
So yeah, coming over to, I wanted to hop back into our overview page and kind of wrap things up to show you a few more features back in the overview page. So here's visitor journey routes. So this is just showing us what roads these people are taking to get to the festival.
That one
Kind of restricted.
North and south. And
There's one road in, one road out.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And we can also see where they're leaving from. So, and then coming down even further, we can look at hourly visits for the festival, so busiest times of the day.
That's important for like the catfish to know when they need to have these staffed. I mean, they weren't just saying it for the catfish, but.
Yeah, sorry.
But we know that. We know that because we were there. I mean, some of this is really good.
But some of this, you know it already.
Well, you
You know that
might
busy is.
you might have a feeling that, but this gives us data to back it
Yeah,
up. Like,
exactly, that's just as far
I
down.
mean,
You know, that's how we do the catfish every year.
but
Well, that's why I wanted to know where the data actually came from, because it's important. I mean, you get a feeling that, oh, we got a lot of people here.
Right.
But you really don't know what that number is. And so it's important to just understand where we're getting the number from, and this makes sense at this point of the game. It's not just a guess anymore,
No,
because
it's data, it's hard.
it's data, exactly.
I would like to write to other catfish festivals.
So coming down to daily visits, obviously, we're just looking at 1 day's worth, so Saturday's just gonna pop up there.
Mhm.
And we can also look at visit duration. So on average, how long do the people stay at the festival for? It says about 64 minutes on average. And then we can break it down, right? How many total people stayed between 60 and 74 minutes? About 451. There was a good amount, about 420 people that stayed for over 150 minutes as well.
Those are the volunteers.
All of us. That's great.
That's really interesting.
So in terms of today's demonstration, everyone, that's pretty much all I had to show you all. So just wanted to leave, the next 5 to 10 minutes for any questions that you guys might have.
Well, BJ already asked the main question that we really want to know is the cost. What's the cost of this?
The cost.
Bottom line,
Bottom line, yes.
Yes, so yeah, I actually had a chance to discuss this with Charles as well. So we're typically priced as a 1-year subscription to the platform. What is included in that is a limited access for the entire city. So anyone with a City of Crescent email domain will have access to the platform to look over any piece of data that we looked at today. It's also going to come with access to our customer success team. So we don't just, give you the platform and say good luck. The customer success team are the people that are working with the over 1,300 Civic clients we have today. And they're helping them onboard them, train them in the platform, helping them understand use cases around the data. Really there to help you every step of the way to get the most ROI for the entire subscription. You'll also have access to them as well. So we price based on population, and Charles and I had a chance to discuss this time around, but for your city, it would be $10,000 for the year.
And that's in their IT support line in the budget draft I gave you, just so we could factor it in.
That is coming out of the CRA.
Before the CRA.
I mean, it definitely has.
Any other questions?
My question would be, with chambers, like our Chamber of Commerce, are you working with Chamber of Commerce's or the tourist developments?
Yes, yeah, so beyond, like I mentioned at the top of the call when I was screen sharing, so here I'll actually switch back to that. So here we go. So yeah, over 1,300 civic clients today, right? So that's like cities, county, states, DMOs, chambers of commerce, CVBs, pretty much everything across the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. We're gonna, that'll be part of our budget discussion over the next hour or so.
Charles,
Yes.
Commissioner Lori has one more
Oh,
question.
one more question.
So the subscription, that, would we only be able to look at data, like in areas or addresses in our city? Or like, say we wanted to see Placa, would we be able to do that?
Would we be able to see data in other cities, like our neighbor Palaca?
Yes, absolutely, yep. Access to any POI across the country or place of interest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll be in touch with you and let you know how it turned out.
All right, sounds good, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next time.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. That is interesting. You don't really have to decide today. We've got a couple months, but I worked it in so you could see how it would work. In the IT where we pay for Adobe and 365 and all that, I added $10,000 to cover the subscription.
It's a lot of money, but it has a lot of usefulness.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Even like the plaza, when they're looking at a tenant we could show the traffic at the plaza and so forth. They question, like, looks empty to me. We can say, well, we actually have data that shows the number of visits.
The Save a Lot Plaza is something.
Yeah, Save a Lot Plaza has about 3 vacancies left in there.
That's really.
I think it would be, yeah, very beneficial to prospect businesses and current businesses.
Yeah.
Also to be able to come in here and of course, they have to go through us to pull that data.
We use it and pull it out and give it to someone and just try and prove, hey, this isn't just a sleepy town, this is how many people we attract to events and how many people that come through every day and that kind of stuff, and where they're coming from, which that's really hard to get any other way,
Commissioner Vita.
Yes, so one thing that occurred to me is, this is very interesting. I've never seen anything like it.
It's kind of big brothery.
Yeah, so that was, yeah, that was anything like it, and Commissioner Burton's question, that was what I had written down, how do they know it's people, not animals? So
Yeah,
we
we
have
fooled to think that somebody's not listening to your phone anyway.
Right, so, but, as far as, to get the big picture, and this is kind of a question for Charles. So, how many people are here. What you don't, like as far as helping business, my question is, how do you get the other piece of the puzzle? For example, when people come here, say they go to Save a Lot Plaza, how do you know if they're going just to hang out in their car, or to go in someplace and use the restroom? And the other thing is, as far as helping businesses, a key thing I think that businesses want to know is what are the demographics and the economic, what is the spending capacity of the people who come?
I'm not sure it tells that.
It doesn't, but I'm saying, how are there other companies that do that? Because to me, for economic development planning, a baseline is how many people come here, but then the next step is, why are they coming? Are they spending money? And what is their, what is their income capacity? What are they really looking for? And, for example, do people not come here because of certain things? And then, on the days of the festivals, I don't know if we can capture this information. I've been wondering about this for a while. You have people coming in and then they visit businesses, but a $64 question to me is, how much are they spending when they go? Is it more than the typical spending on different days? Are you displacing some customers with other customers? There's another layer, there are other layers.
But this is more information than we ever had any other way.
Right.
We're not gonna be able to find that
Okay.
information.
And I don't know if you can, because I asked that question. Okay, so you have a company that does that?
No, not a company, but it's my understanding that some cities and businesses do surveys. I've suggested that we survey our boat ramps, for example, just to find out, why are you here?
Oh my gosh, the manpower.
Pardon?
Do you know the manpower that would require?
Well, wait, I'm not finished. For example, if we don't know a lot about our boat ramps, you don't have to go there every day. It doesn't take that long. But I've been surveyed when I go to malls or businesses, and there are statistical surveys. You ask a certain number of questions. So I'm saying this is very good baseline data, but there's more information that you need to kind of plan an economic development plan. And also what kind of shopping do you want to attract? So I'm just saying there's another layer to it. You can't just say, just because people are here, they're spending money. We need to know more about, what they spent.
Well, and I think what we're talking about really, I'm gonna try and put it in a nutshell, basically, we would be spending $10,000 for information for data that shows who's coming into the city and everything, but how do we actually ROI that? Okay, so it's an expense to the city, how do we determine what that actually is bringing, paying for? Because you want it to pay for the $10,000 and hopefully plus bring more into the city, whatever they have.
And be on us to use it.
Yeah, and so that's really what my concern would be, is right now, how would we ROI that $10,000? Data is great, but to just spend it for the fact of getting data without it really accomplishing anything for the city doesn't make any sense to me. That's just my opinion.
It really does.
Christine,
To make sure that
have you known of any other main streets using the data and what they use it for?
Not that I can recall.
The challenge I've had in my career, they always talk about, you need to survey your merchants to see their sales. Well, merchants are typically shy about talking about the revenue and their sales. They say, well, use your sales tax data. Well, generally, the service area is too big. Usually it's a small town downtown, and so you're some fraction of that big number that you get of sales tax. So that hasn't been useful. So this is finally a tool that literally counts people, doesn't say how much they spent, how much they're capable of spending, or what their preferences
It
are.
only counts people if you use a cell phone, but I went to Catfish, I use my cell phone.
But you have to have.
But if you have it with you, it counts you.
It's still falls.
So it actually can get into
It's
the
only-
cell phone.
everyone's cell phone is tracking you at all times. And then what they do is they anonymize the data, so it doesn't say your name or anything or phone number. And they pull that from about 100 different companies and use that data to extrapolate a number. So whether you know it or not, if you have Google Maps on your phone, if you have Google, so if you have an Android phone, it tracks you. And that data is sold, regardless of, whether you like it or not. And whether you even use it, it's in your pocket all the time transmitting. So-
Again, it's just data until you can actually make it usable.
But just like talking about the boat ramps, we can use that to see where the location of people that come through that area and what times of the day they go through, what days of the week. So like when we
Where they're coming
when we were
from.
talking about the
It
boat
could tell us the
races
boat
and
ramp.
closing the boat ramps, we're like, oh, well, no one's gonna be able to use the pump. We can look at Memorial Day for last year and the year before and see how many people actually use the boat ramps and where they're coming from and if they can use it. I mean, there's a ton of things that we could use it for.
And I need to dig into some of those case studies to talk about economic development. So we'll bring this back. This is just a first look at this, but I'd like to go ahead and go through the revenue and expenses.
I think Christina had a comment.
Well, I just wanted to state that for a couple of years now at the farmer's market, we've had volunteers that walk around with a clipboard and try to, gauge where people are coming from. And it's really hard to do that. And with this data, it would allow us to be able to apply for different grants because we would have, real numbers to show people or sponsors or the TDC, for example. For our Main Street program has yet to acquire any grants for any of our events. And this data would help support that. We would be able to show potential sponsors. For example, Comcast was just a very large sponsor and they wanted an estimate of how many people were projected to attend the fireworks. And I just couldn't give them that accurate number. Had I been able to, I could have perhaps done more or, it's just invaluable data.
Even the small matching grants application
Yes,
asks you, what do you project this facility's attendance will be? What do you base that on?
we have nothing to go by currently.
And I just know that the TDC, that's one of my first questions is, and that's a lot of times with how much money we're able to allot is, are they coming from out of the county? Are you bringing them in from out of the county? Because if they're coming from out of the county, then they're spending out of county money in the county.
Yeah, they
in
just
the
come
county.
here to sit here.
And so, but
I mean, there's,
something definitely to think about. Let's go forward.
Let's move on. Yeah.
Mayor,
Yes.
this kind of segues into what Charles is about to cover. I have a question on sales tax, which that's
Okay.
partly, so you mentioned that the data on the sales tax is for too large an area. So do we actually not know what the sales tax revenue is for the city limits? Don't we get part of that?
Well, we get our state portion, but that would be for the entire city, not for the Main Street district. So we'd have to figure out a way to extrapolate it down to how much of that came out of Central and Summit, we would get the entire city data. We wouldn't get
But aren't most of our commercial enterprises in one or more of the CRA, in one of the CRAs?
Well, they're all in a CRA just about, but for instance, if we wanted just for the Main Street district, we couldn't have. We wanted just the North CRA, we wouldn't be able to get. We'd have to figure out the math to sort that out, yeah.
But we can find out what the sales tax revenue is for
The entire city.
the city, but is it reported on a daily basis?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
no, you pay your sales tax. It depends on the amount of sales tax you bring in. So some people pay them monthly and you pay it a month and, you know, and others do it quarterly. Some people that's how they're set up. They don't bring in enough money, so they do it quarterly. So no, you don't do it daily. So there's no way of being able to
Okay, so it's not,
track that and say, what was the peak, when did they, you know,
right,
and a company is typically not going to hand that information, that's proprietary, and they're not gonna hand that over to you, especially if they're trying to promote themselves as being successful, and if they, you know.
no, I get that part, but,
Yeah.
so anyway, the state reporting is not as sophisticated.
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's what I want to know, thank you.
So we start with our revenues for the CRA. Just like we talk about every year, we can figure out the city portion of the income and the county portion, but the prior year fund balance is an estimate, a best guess at this point. And as we get closer and closer to adoption, we give it our best guess right before adoption. We've only got a month left, and we can get a pretty good guess of how much would be left, so we can show that as spendable funds for the year. So you can see we're figuring we have 174,500 in the central, 230,400 in the north, and just 40,400 in the south.
I hate to interrupt you, Charles, but I just wanna make sure, I've got like 10 budgets here.
Yeah, me too.
So which one, or which
We're on
one?
CRA,
I know
revenue,
it's CRA,
the
but,
revenue page.
is it, I guess it's this one that I have my notes on.
Well, you should have $174,500 for the central,
Okay,
and then 230,400.
okay,
And this is the column second, this is 1, 2, 3,
I got that one. I
6
got
columns.
okay, I'm good, I just wanna make sure.
Well, wait, Mayor, on that subject, I have a question. So the most recent one is the one with the column that says year-to-date June actual.
Yes.
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 Okay, and my observation is, if I could, when we're having the same document printed, well, important documents printed, down in the whatever, the footer, where the page numbers is you can put the date and the time. That would really help.
We used to do that, and Charles, remember when you first, we used to do that, we used to date
The date of the
those.
draft.
Yeah,
Noted.
Just so we all know we're looking at the most recent one. Okay,
So we've got a kind of a fundamental shift related to our support of our Main Street organization, where we're talking about switching from providing a paid position to a contract for services. And this is a way to get them finally that final step, so we can become, what's the term, Christina, for the third year?
Will be
Certified,
accredited.
Accredited, yeah, a fully accredited program. So we'll have a contract for service with them, and they'll hire their own executive director, and they're currently looking for rental space and so forth. So what we did with that, in order to facilitate that, is I moved the payroll expenses that were in the central. They were kind of spread out over central, north, and south. I moved them all into the north. That fund now gets more revenue than the central, and it's been pretty heavy. So that's why you see in the current 2025, we have 0 for salaries, FICA, pension, health insurance. All that was moved to the North CRA. So then we have $1,500 in training and education, which is the same. That's enabled to go to the Main Street conference, the FRA conference, possibly the Certification Institute, travel as well. And then car allowance is $3,000, just like last year. That's because we don't have a vehicle for the CRA, and Christina was using her truck quite a bit for work, and we don't have insurance for her truck. The professional services line, that's where the service agreement, the MOU with Main Street would be the $50,000 to conduct our Main Street program, to make sure we follow the Main Street approach. And then we have telephone improvement projects, that's just where we buy the planters, or bricks or pots. It's important to note that a CRA, once we can buy the plants and put them in, we can't maintain the plants. We're not supposed to use CRA funds for ongoing maintenance and repairs.
So the city, the general fund, or just the
It
city?
switches to the general fund, yes, at that point. And then zero advertising, and other is down to 500. Festivals is zero because we are prohibited now from use. We can actually fund an inaugural festival if we have a lot of CRA information there about our other programs and so forth. But we just needed the money in our grant program, so I made that zero. So IT support, that's the contribution to the ongoing IT support, and then the IT licenses, that has the $10,000 for AI Placer plus $1,000 for the like Microsoft, those annual fees. A little bit of operating supplies, membership, that's membership in the National Main Street Center and the Florida Redevelopment Association. Indirect cost allocation, that's the transfer back to the general fund that covers the overhead that for the CRA. The CRA doesn't have its own finance department, for example. And then this is a new line that I'm proposing, housing rehabilitation grants. And that would be a fund where we could paint someone's house, we could fix the roof, whatever we want to do, those houses that are in the CRA, we would have a dedicated, there was some concern last year that if we're fixing houses, we'll deplete the fund for the commercial. So this way I'm proposing $10,000 in housing and $58,000 in the commercial, because it's mostly commercial. And this will be a start with the housing. I believe in the CIP I had where we were going to apply for some grants, not for 25, but in 26. And so that matches income equals revenue equals expenditures, 174,500. As we get closer and if we see we have more revenue, we can decide we want to put more in that housing or more in that redevelopment grant line.
And this is just central, right?
This is just the central, yeah.
Can you explain more about the shifting, the cost of it? So does that mean that Christina is no longer going to be the CRA manager, or like what does this mean for Christina?
Well, that'll be up to Christina. If she wants to go with the partnership and they'll have to hire her, or if she wants to stay as a CRA manager and let them hire somebody else. But those two positions will work very closely together. The CRA position will manage, and in the answers to the questions from Commissioner DeVito, I sent out a caption of the job description to be handling all the grant programs for all the CRAs, working with businesses, recruitment, property development, all the normal CRA stuff.
Business. And
will just be supportive of the Main Street program and their initiatives and their executive director. It'll be a partnership because the aims are the same.
So either the done partnership would be hiring a director, or we need to be hiring.
Or we'll be manager, correct.
Mayor, I have a question.
Can you spell yourself out?
Yes, Commissioner DeVito.
Thank you. Okay, so Charles, my question, I don't know if I asked this in the email that was sent to you. So we can legally pay our CRA manager out of North and South and not use Central for her or their salary, but legitimately use their services for Central, even if Central is not paying?
Correct.
And how do we do that? Because everything else we apportion, don't we apportion the amount to city administration and finance, correct? And it comes equally out of the three CRAs?
I believe so, yeah.
Sorry.
All I can tell you is if you want me to get a legal opinion on that, I know we can't use someone paid by the CRA in a non-CRA area of the city for general fund expenditures. But as long as they're within the CRA, to my knowledge, we don't distinguish between CRAs. But if you would prefer, I can, I don't know if Mr. Holmes would know that, but I could ask the FRA for a legal opinion.
Well, I'm just wondering because we always apportion it, and I mean, we don't ever use capital or grant funding from one CRA in
another.
the area of another CRA. That is why that kind of occurred to me.
Well,
I think
one
I
thing
would
that could,
just get a legal opinion and just, or an opinion.
or even we could even put $1,000 of payroll in there, and then she's paid out.
And then she's,
CRA.
yeah, it's kind of our top two,
Okay, I'll see if Don knows, but.
yeah. I think that would be the best way to do that. I mean, for a long time, we didn't even have a CRA manager, you know, so it was.
And with the way we were dividing it out, we weren't necessarily always taking the money out of like the South CRA, even though it was spread there, it was budgeted there. Trying to make it easier for our staff as well, but I'll find out. Any other questions on the central?
Yes, Commissioner Rea.
Okay, well, I think I just have some comments really to share with the rest of the commission, my thoughts about some of the things that Charles has put in here, and to share with Charles as well. It occurs to me, I think the residential grant line is a good thing. It talks about providing grants to remove slum and blight in the residential areas of our CRAs. One thing I would like us to consider is instead of using that money for a direct grant, because I don't think it would go very far, when you're talking about rehabilitating a home, I mean, I think even that very small house on Cedar Street that we gave a grant to paint was, what, $5,000 or $6,000?
It was.
So $10,000 doesn't go a long way if you pay the whole thing. Something that other CRAs do is they give some form of a loan, and you could do it any way you wanted to, but to me, if we used the residential grant money and maybe even the commercial grant money for a loan so that the property owner had to pay it back, that would kind of make the money go farther and circulate the money. So I'm just throwing that out as a way to stretch the dollars and increase the improvements. Just a second. Oh, the question I have for the city manager is on page 2, line 38 on the memberships. Then when we see the next version of this budget, could those things be spelled out so that we know?
Oh, the acronym, yes.
Right, the acronyms, and then, is the CRA a member, like, is either the city or the CRA currently paying for a Florida Trust for Historic Preservation membership?
The city is,
The city does?
yes.
Okay, so I'll put city, and then I didn't understand, going up to line 30, where it says telephone on page 2 also. There's a note in comments that says need to add overhead for electric bill of the building.
Yeah, and that's, thanks for reminding me about that. We do need to, currently the CRA pays part of the electric for the annex, but I didn't see where it was in here. Steve, we need to look at that and make sure it's.
Okay, and I didn't know, for example, you just said the partnership would be looking for other space, they would not be using the city space anymore?
Yeah, they've been looking for a while to move out and to rent their own space.
Okay, and so we would be paying, how much would we pay to partnership, was it 30 or 50?
It's 50,000 in 4 quarterly, so they provide you with a report on what they've done, with the money, what they plan to do the next quarter. They provide an annual work plan. We make sure it's consistent with the implementation strategy for the master plan. So there'd be accountability and accounting of they provide a financial report as well every quarter.
Okay, so we would, and what line is that in?
That is in professional services, which is,
Line 29, that's the 30
Yes.
from the north, from the central.
Got it, okay, budgeted 50, so, okay, that's the Main Street contract. So essentially, we would have 2 positions, essentially, that would be funded from some part of the CRA budget that would be addressing economic development, CRA issues.
effectively.
Et cetera, et cetera. One would be on contract. And,
And it would make that, the Main Street also more independent, it would give it its independence. Would be our contribution.
More in line with the model.
Yeah, it doesn't know that that they would use, how they were gonna use that, they're gonna pay 30,000 if they, what they would pay for salaries and what they could use it.
The contract is just for the
Yeah.
services, so we
Yeah.
can function out there.
yeah, I guess, those were my questions on that for now, yes.
So we'll go to the north. So in the north, this is where the salary shows up for the CRA manager, which is also FICA, Medicare, pension, health insurance. Now this education and training money, and you may not have been aware, is also to educate you, the CRA board. So you want to go to the FRA conference, you don't have to use your commission training money, which is not enough as it is. To go to the FRA conference, you want to go to the Main Street conferences, get information, that's what that money's for. Professional services, in this case, is just a little bit. We use that for appraisals, renderings, we use it for surveys, that sort of thing.
The reason why that was so high last.
That was the master
was the
plan.
master plan.
Yeah. Improvement projects is also, that would, if you were to go forward with a gateway entrance feature as an example, would come out of there. It could be working on the landscaping, and then when I bought the bushes, the azaleas up there, it came out of that line as an example. Anything to improve the district. And again, here's the housing rehabilitation grants and the redevelopment grant lines. And then a little bit of advertising in case we needed some legal advertising specific to the CRA, some other, and then the indirect cost allocation again is that transfer to the general fund to help cover the overhead.
Do we have in the study that we did for the especially the two new ones, the south and the north, do we have a building survey that tell us how many actual homes are in the north CRA?
I don't know, but I could count them almost probably on two hands.
That's
Yeah.
what I was wondering the same thing, because the 55,000 is that.
It's the houses on the north side of
road.
Harry Banks Park,
Yeah, it's on the road.
and there's a couple on the way over towards the highway, and that's about it in the north.
I just, that's 55, so kind of high.
Mayor, if I
Some of those houses are in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could, it's, the number of houses is not that great, but as Charles said, they're in bad shape, and just painting something, I mean, a roof for a house is what, 10,000 minimum?
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, one thing I would like to look into is, and maybe this is something the CRA manager could do, what could we really do with that money? Like, I mean, for example, in the central CRA, $10,000, we found when we looked at those grants, does not go very far. What kind of blight do we have? What needs to be done to remedy that blight? And how many properties could we address at one time? Because there is blight. That is very true.
So that gives us a total of $230,400, and then again, we'll tweak this as we go forward.
Okay, do we have any questions on the north?
So is that equal to our
That equals revenue.
revenue, so then any fund balance is gonna be,
With the CRA, we have to roll the fund balance in. Yeah.
so that's not in here.
It is, well, it's an estimate, we have an estimate,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I wanted to make sure. Sorry.
What, Mayor, if I could, so where do we find the rolled in fund balance?
Look on the revenues page,
Yeah, it's gonna be,
and it's the third prior year fund balance, lines 5, 10, and 15.
The very first page.
Okay,
So right there, you have circle action.
okay, so all right, so I see. So we got that gives us our, say in the north, the 230,400,
Yes, which is.
that equals the expenditures.
so, Charles, with this grant, with the housing rehabilitation grants, would that have to go, because I know to get on, you and I went to that, we went to that.
That's hard,
And that's.
you gotta be fast.
And the room was full, it was packed, and there was already applicants from the year prior, that are carried over. So but I know that there's, some residents that are looking at that, but like to get a new roof, they have to have a tree removed. Well, then that tree removal is, they're being quoted $1,400. Got somebody right now that I'm talking to about that. Could that be used for that?
It's up to you.
If
We
they
can use
were-
it for, get the
Okay,
job done,
So
yeah.
they could do it, okay,
Mayor,
because it's right on the house.
I talked to the people who administer the SHIP grant,
Uh-huh.
and I think they told me for the whole county, I forget the exact number, but it was an extremely low
Like
number.
20,
Yes, it was,
it's like 20.
so to me, and it takes a
20
lot,
homes.
20, yeah, because it's because of the amount of money allocated, and SHIP grants are actually pretty pricey to do. The mayor mentioned, there are other things they have to do, and as well, this is very distressing, and it comes into play if we're gonna spend CRA money. Some people who I talked to who were interested in applying for the SHIP grant locally from Crescent City, they aren't eligible for a SHIP grant in first, second, third place because they don't have homeowners insurance. They can't afford homeowners insurance. So in other words, if you don't have homeowners insurance,
Can't get it.
you can't get your house
Or you
fixed.
got dropped because a tree sits right on top of your house, and so
Or
the
just-
insurance won't insure you, so, yeah.
Just people don't feel they have that in their budget. So one question for us is, are we going to give somebody a grant if they don't have homeowners insurance? And I don't know how much they cost, but it gets complicated.
That's a good question.
Well, oftentimes, like with a roof, so the insurance companies have come in now, I think, 11 years, 10 years? If it's a shingle roof, and then they quit insuring you unless you replace it. So if they quit insurance on and they replace the roof, and that's all that's required, then they should hopefully be able to get insurance.
Right, but I'm saying, some people just don't put that in, they don't put, maybe we could encourage them to. But I think there's probably so few SHIP grants handed out.
Yes.
Maybe there might be one person in the whole city who would get a SHIP grant that we could help them with. To me, I think we need to concentrate on the people who aren't going to be able to get a SHIP grant anytime soon. They also take a lot of time.
Well, once upon a time, I heard it was just for the county.
No,
But it is for city.
It's for everybody in the county, as long as you're in the county and you meet the requirements, if you get there for.
But it's,
So do we need to put together a residential program? I mean, we have the CRA grant program, which we have been using, but
Yeah,
I think we need to, I guess, fine tune that for,
yeah, if you guys approve this, we'll create a form and so
so
forth.
we can discuss that a little bit more. If we want to
It might-
require homeowners.
I would encourage you to be as liberal as possible, just to get the job done. It might help them get insurance and so forth, and to clean up the blame.
The main goal is to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah,
start.
it's not gonna solve everything, so we can start somewhere.
Maybe just $1,000 a year, do a good job. Next year we'll move on, so. So in the South, this is just $40,000. We haven't done much in the South. I know when the RV park opens, we're gonna get a bump, probably a significant bump in the South.
It's in the CRA grant.
It's in the South CRA,
But
yes.
it's still vacant land.
Right, oh, no, no, I
It's vacant
understand.
land, yeah.
It's just like when McDonald's is built, that's gonna be
Yeah.
big.
So I haven't seen any movement yet.
Yeah, not August yet.
Okay.
So we took out the salary, but again, I may have to put a little bit back in there. There's some more training money there. And then improvement projects, again, that was to cover either the sign. We did pay for some banners out of that, I think one time. If we were doing any right-of-way improvements, anything, it's so tight down there, there's not much room. And then professional services, again, that's for surveys and appraisals and so forth. And then, so we have $19,000 for a grant program. There are houses in the South CRA, they're not in bad shape. There's one row, it's the east side of Main Street, I think.
There's
Just,
you're talking the pink and the White House and.
there's a row of houses, yeah, there's not much, maybe less than half a
Somebody lives in
dozen.
the pink house.
Yeah, the pink house and.
They all have their backs to the highway. You can see the backs of the houses through from the highway. They're in the South CRA.
Oh, yeah.
The big.
And it's like just
That
$2.
one's not in there because,
That whole side of the street's not.
not the whole side of the street,
But from like
that
that
will,
block.
that will,
So there's not, so I didn't add one in there. We certainly can do that. But there's so little money in this thing. This might help us, those businesses that are down there might, get painted or a facade grant or a sign grant, something like that. So that's the $40,400. Any questions on the CRA?
$40,400.
Oh, okay, and then.
That's the total for the south, the projected total.
and
It's up there,
Charles, would you, just for,
line 68, that's fine.
with all of these that are red and in parentheses, because somebody out there in virtual world will mangle this
Yeah.
information.
That's just the change over last year.
I just want you to clarify that they're not negative, this is just change of, yes.
Reduction in spending, anticipated reduction. in
We
spending.
have,
That's what's spending there.
we have all those financial advisors out there that will surely.
I just
How we're spending our money.
Clarification, so if anybody decides to look at this, if they need to question it. Okay. Do we have any more questions on the CRA, in the South CRA? Commissioner DeVito?
Well, it didn't say anything, but,
Okay. No, that's okay, we'll move on.
well, wait, no, that's okay, you read my mind. I have a question about what ad valorem tax numbers are we using right here for this?
Are you ready to go to general fund?
Well,
But that's what we're,
She's talking about CRA.
Oh,
I'm talking
CRA.
about the CRA, I'm just saying, so what ad valorem tax numbers are we using?
Those are calculated off the current, yeah, so there would be a little decrease if we roll that back.
No, I'm not talking about rollback, because there's a whole step before you get to rollback. So we are using the 2024 numbers for,
Correct, that's the values for 2024, the new values, the revenue for
Yes.
CRA? Yeah, those are the new values, based on the current millage rate.
Yeah, for the CRA.
okay, so wait a minute, these are the new values. At one point, I think your memo said that there was some confusion about,
There was, we didn't have a rollback rate, so this is the current millage rate. So again, if you vote to roll back the rate, the revenue will go down a little bit in the CRA.
okay, well, that was my second question, but my first question is, these are the updated ad valorem value numbers.
Yes.
Yes,
yes.
In other words, there's not going to be any adjustment to the ad valorem tax numbers.
to my knowledge.
This is the current numbers, this is what we got.
These are the final numbers that we received, correct?
Okay,
There was a problem, but didn't have the rollback rate calculator.
Yeah,
But
it's showing
yes,
it higher, which is,
you got it.
yeah, we got to figure it out.
So this is accurate.
okay,
As far as
and
we
then,
know.
but the second question is, so obviously if we do a rollback rate, that affects, the TIF funds?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Will reduce, okay?
So we're just exactly the same amount last year.
So are we ready for the general fund? So just, I'll kind of make some opening comments, and Steve's going to go through each department with you. Basically, this is, what we sent out to you was the current millage rate. Same, and all, the state is late on giving us their revenue numbers, so we just use the same numbers as a starting point, kind of get a feel for where we are. So,
So all the share revenue and the,
yeah, the 6 cent sales tax, all those things from the state are the same as last year. So this is a first blush. So we're hoping the state revenue will go up. And then we finally worked out what happened with the rollback rate. The rollback rate will be 8.4 something. So it would be a little bit, we would need to trend about $19,000 out of this budget that you have. And I think that's achievable. So that's sort of the context. We're going to step through it today. But this will give you an idea. Right now, it's a balanced budget. Income equals expenses. And there is a little bit of anticipated leftover amount based on our spending this year, but we don't count that. In the CRA fund, we have to count that. In general fund, we leave it, and then we discover what it is. And it's like Christmas. We put it back in, hopefully, unless it's in the red, which we have not been in the red since long before I got here. So that's how we have $1 million surplus, is we are always in the black.
At least now though, we know what our rollover number is going to be, because in the past, we've asked that question and it was just there, it was almost like there wasn't, it just got blended in there and started over with a brand new budget. At least now, I like the fact that we have a number, we've had that number.
And again, that number will keep changing as we spend money.
Yeah.
It's a projection.
Right.
But if we, to look at the revenues, if we did the rollback rate, it would be to bring the exact same amount of revenue in as we did last year.
Yes,
So then we would need to trim out of the general fund about,
19,000.
no, we would need to trim $83,000.
Now, the total amount of revenue, just the ad valorem.
Ad valorem, right here, we, for, amended budget, sorry, 938, yeah. Budget,
Well,
938, 574,
Our adopted budget is not what the actual revenue was.
it should be 98% of
It was
that.
more than that. It was over $1 million, wasn't it? The actual last year.
Yes.
Yeah, it was $1 million and, did you have that form?
So my understanding,
The
based on our,
Yeah.
Just that we would budget at the same rate, or the same amount, at the 98% or whatever, because there's collections that, and they take
I'm good.
a commission out of that,
That's only one.
the
That's right.
tax collector. So, I mean, we would be using roughly the same number as last year, because that's the whole point of rollback rate, is that we do not get an increase in the amount of money that comes in.
right, we would just, whatever we got
So,
last year and that is what we would be using
What
this
we have
year.
adopted last year was 938,574. And
But we collected more than that.
right, but even if we collected more than that, we're still gonna do the same percentage. So it would be roughly the same, we can only spend the same amount of money. So,
Yeah, but the higher amount that we actually collected becomes
The new number.
becomes the new number. That's what we collected. We're gonna
That's
not
the new
increase
number.
that
The-
collection.
but still, and so from this year, we could still collect the same amount and take out the commission that the tax collector makes, and then it's still the same amount. So, I mean, we're looking at,
I can tell you what we got on the 420. It tells us we collected over $1 million after all that.
right,
And that's the number we work from, the number off the DR 420.
Okay,
okay,
could I ask just a clarification here?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is,
Did you say?
420, yeah.
Charles, this is
Yes.
just for you. So, I don't know, this is getting very confusing. What, I guess, the rollback rate.
What's your question?
This is- I'm trying to formulate a question. Could we assume that some of the increase in ad valorem taxes above what we budgeted for is because of new construction coming online? I mean, what causes the collections above budget?
I don't know.
Well, you would have to think that if you have a sale, I mean, so they weren't anticipating the sale, they looked at it, that was at 3% instead of the property sold. So now it's going to be, right, it's gonna be assessed at
Changes in
changes in the value.
circumstances.
Yes, Commissioner Lori, please.
well, and also when we put out, we charge a certain amount of taxes, the tax collector takes a commission off of that for collecting it. So that's what comes out of it, because I mean, and so if we increased,
But I don't understand what you're,
but what I'm saying is, I'm here, we have ad valorem, it went up 125,000.
right,
So that's the amount that we would have to cut out of the budget if we wanted to roll back the rate. Because the rollback rate is to bring in the same amount of money in revenue that we brought in last year. So regardless of what the commission's all better, that's the number that we used, was 938. That would be what we would have to use if we wanted to roll back and use the rollback rate. That's why it always says that it's a tax increase if we leave it at the same amount. But the whole point of rollback rate is to roll back the tax rate to bring in the same amount of revenue as we did last year. And I know the revenue might be higher than this, but if we budgeted for 938, and right now you have budgeted $1,063,000, that's an increase of 125, it says it right here. So it's the 125 we would have to cut out of the budget to make it work, roughly.
I'll send you a copy of the DR 420,
Okay.
which
And that was-
then we'll see what.
yeah, and that's never come into, how much we have to pay the tax collector for.
No, I mean, but I'm saying that number, the top number, he's saying that we use 95% of that or 98%, and that's why. there's other costs and other numbers that go in there, and then there's delinquent taxes. But I'm just saying that the normal ad valorem taxes that we had last year is what we should use if we're gonna try and do a rollback rate. That's how they determine the rollback
So
rate.
let me ask you this, just to cut, so now, when you've done this, I know you've been working on what our rollback rate would be and the projection as to how much money that would be, correct?
Yes.
That's what we're working off of here right now, correct?
This is not rollback.
No, I know, no, and then that's with us having to take this reduction, looking at this budget, and then having to reduce, that's the number you're using, correct? The rollback rate, the rollback number,
The 19,000
Yes.
roughly? Yeah, that would be.
that's how you're getting that, correct?
Well, this number right here, the 1,063,000, that's the revenue based, was that last year?
On the current.
I'm sorry, current 2024.
According to the DR 420, we are stuck with going the numbers off the DR 420.
Right,
So I'll send you a copy of that for today's purposes, because I think intention of today is for you to give us direction to come back potentially at the rollback rate, and then with the state numbers fresh, and then show you what that would look like with expenditures. So that's, where do we need to cut? So today, I want to get a feeling from you, you kind of see where we're spending our money, and this is the bare bones budget. If we were to cut 20 or 1,000 or whatever out of it, where would you want us to make those cuts? And we'll bring it back to you with the adjusted revenue. Once you see the 420, you'll see the reason it's not a simple answer.
Right, but it's more than $20,000. If we're
Well-
bringing in 125,000.
We'll figure that out. And then by the time we get to September first reading, we'll have a number for you that we can count on, that you will have.
but right now you're thinking based on the numbers that you have before you, it's about $19,492 we'd have to cut out of this.
That's our preliminary estimate.
Okay, if we decided, so what you're looking to us is, do we want to try our best to go to the rollback?
That's my recommendation.
Do we know, when was the last time?
8.594
Yeah.
for 28, well, it was,
20 years,
yeah, because
okay.
it was in 2000, yeah, right after I left office that we went to 8.5. And it's been a long time.
So as we go through this budget, everyone needs to keep in mind that, let's say $20,000, where do we want to back out of that, out of this current one, if in fact that's the pleasure of the commission, is to go to the rollback rate.
One thing that
And not
may
increase.
help explain it, when we add value in a CRA, general fund doesn't benefit from that.
Okay. But I'm just saying, right here, we have the number for the ad valorem tax.
Yeah.
That increase is $125,000 since last year. That is what we would have to cut out, because the rollback rate is when you get the same amount of revenue as you did last year.
But it's actual revenue. What I'm suggesting you, when you see the DR 420,
Okay.
look at the actual revenue line.
I'm just saying that
It's
gotta be
more
than
than we
25.
budgeted for.
It doesn't make any sense.
You gotta even pull your microphone down.
Just-
I'll sit here and
I think
scroll.
that's me, but I've also looked at them, you know.
You're on.
All right, can everybody hear me? All right, we're gonna start with the revenue. Like Charles said, the state is late with getting us everybody the revenue numbers, so we just basically based budget off of last year, except for the line 7, the water utility tax. When I do my budgets, I look at like actual, and then I look at my projected, what we'd be at the end of the year. And I added a little bit to that one. I thought we were a little bit low, so I brought that one up to 25.5.
What line is that?
Line 7, water utility tax, at about $9,500. It's just based off of a projected number. And then, so the total taxes, we're looking at 1.427416 million for total taxes. Anybody's got a question, we can move on to licenses and permits.
Mayor, I have just a couple questions. So, Stephen, I just marked a couple of these lines where, for the column that says year-to-date actual June.
Yes.
For example, at the very bottom, line 11, the county's lake shore in lieu of taxes, it's getting toward the end of the year.
It's there.
They haven't paid yet? It doesn't show that they
We haven't received.
We have not received it.
Correct.
Okay,
We have received
We
it,
have received
yeah.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
It's on July?
That's one of the things that I was stressed about
Yeah,
that day.
that's one of the reasons we didn't initially show the year-to-date, because there's still errors in there.
okay, and
So-
then, okay, well, it's not reflected in here, so there's no way that anybody looking at it would know that. So going up one more, line 10 on the business tax. I noticed that for this year, we budgeted $9,000, but year-to-date June actual is $147.
That is correct, yeah.
That's a big gap, so I'm wondering if we're 3/4 of the way through the year, and we only received $147 in business tax, is that realistic to, again, budget the $9,000 for the business tax?
Well, if you go back to like 2022, we have $4,130, and then 2023, we're up to 17. There's really,
Those have been improperly put into miscellaneous revenues, and we're still doing, gotta do a journal entry to fix that.
Okay, so this is a journal entry issue? Okay, because just when you look at revenues, it looks like there's something amiss.
you're gonna find a lot of that, I think.
Okay, and then, okay, so are there any other line items? I know we're only 3/4 of the way through the year, but other than ad valorem tax, are you expecting everything else to pretty much come in as budgeted by the time we get to the end of the year?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why.
You don't have a concern about that?
No.
Okay, that was all I wanted to know, those two, lines 10 and 11 just seemed a little odd. Okay, that's all here, thank you. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, next section is gonna be licenses and permits. We've got,
Steve, can you talk into your mic, please?
oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
How about that? Okay, for licenses and permits, we budgeted $8,000, just anticipating more, more activity happening next year. Zoning fees remains unchanged at $500. Mobile home licenses, we've got $2,500, and then the alcohol beverage license, we've got $3,000 for a total of $14,000 for licenses and permits.
How, do we feel pretty strongly with this $8,000?
Yeah, what this doesn't reflect, McDonald's paid their bill, which was, how much?
9,005, 9,000.
Yeah, it was in July, so this doesn't reflect.
Just paid it like 2 weeks, like last week. Last week they just.
So there's some revenue that's not reflected there. Probably
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
And we also still have like the school and we still have other projects that are out there that need to come in that have already
St.
done.
John's, yes, okay, and that'll be in the next fiscal year, so, that we're looking at, okay, go ahead.
Next section is intergovernmental, and this is kind of the same thing where we're just basing our numbers based off of last year. We're just waiting for, just to see where the state is with everything here. So we've got 120,000 for electric franchise, we've got 25,000 for the garbage franchise, that's with Waste Pro. We've got the FDOT green space agreements, $3,500 for the Putnam County landscape agreement, state revenue sharing is $74,000. $100,000 for the state half-cent sales tax, FDOT traffic signal maintenance agreements, $4,000, FDOT street maintenance contract is $26,000, and the gasoline rebate state tax is $2,000. And we haven't been budgeting for that because apparently when we buy gas, we have to pay tax, but then we can fill out paperwork with the state and put some of our money back in for apparently some reason that it just stopped being done, so we're gonna start doing that again, at least get something back.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because the taxes, we shouldn't have to pay on the gas,
Exactly,
which is like half of the cost of a gallon of gas.
yeah. So the total intergovernmental is $371,900.
Do we have any questions on this?
I do, Mayor, on the line, the garbage franchise, line 19.
Yes.
So this is our contract for the waste program?
No, this is,
Yeah.
they pay us a franchise fee for all the commercial dumpsters that they collect within the city limits, because we have an agreement with them that they're exclusive garbage haulers.
But, okay, so I noticed, all right, so we are down, below what we have budgeted, and we're going to budget less for next year. Is there any particular reason, identifiable reason for that? Are there fewer commercial dumpsters?
Well, I mean, if you look at the audit in 2022 and 2023,
Yeah.
it was 25,000.
We went up five.
It went up to
Yeah.
30,000, and he's saying that we should go back to 25,000 based on the actuals. It just makes sense.
Yeah, when I try not to look at, when I do a budget, I try not to look at the previous year's budget, I go
You
off,
look at the
year to date and then projecting the actuals, yeah. For me, I've always found that, I get a truer picture of what's going on.
Exactly.
Because you never know what happened in the previous budget. You could have budgeted for a project that didn't happen, or, event that didn't happen, or, you could make more money than you thought, so.
And we're just, 8 months through this year, we should have a pretty good idea of how we're gonna finish this year.
Correct.
So I think it makes sense.
Okay, well, I was kind of asking our finance director how he arrived at that, number and what went into it, so thank you both for that, thank you.
Steve, do you agree with that that's how you arrived at that number?
What you just said.
Yeah, looking at year to
I
date
just
and
wanna
then
make sure.
projected, yeah, and then looking back,
Clarification.
look at 22 and 23, you kind of see where we're heading.
Okay.
Okay, next section is going to be charges for services. First line is the rent for Putnam County is 28,000. Zero change for the rent at 117 Summit. I guess the sheriff's department is going to be moving in. There's going to be a zero charge for that. And then sale of surplus vehicles, just based off last year's budget of $3,500. Admin fees for gas, water, wastewater, same thing, just based off of last year's budget. Admin fees for solid waste. I made a little bit of an adjustment here just based off of, the projected number, bumped that up $2,200. And then admin fees for the CRA, that's same as last year, 28,000 for a total of $466,400.
I just want to note, this is kind of the irony, we've noticed we've only paid half of most of those administrative transfers because those enterprise funds are in such trouble. So if they didn't have that burden, it would help them, but then the general fund would be in trouble. We couldn't roll back the millage as an example.
But Mayor, if I could respond to that, so but when we pay those administrative transfers, that's part of making the enterprise fund pay its full cost, correct?
Well, there's a calculation of overhead.
Right,
Each one of them doesn't have a finance department and so
right,
forth.
but I'm saying if we did not require a contribution toward the overhead, then wouldn't the general fund city taxes be contributing to the overhead of the enterprise fund?
It would be, well, we're paying the bills now and this kind of pays us back.
That's what
We
I'm
just wouldn't
saying.
have that, so.
We would be bearing their administrative expense. Okay, and Mayor, I did have a question about, line 28, the rent for Putnam County. And this is a question either for the city manager or finance director. Didn't our agreement with the county that we signed recently provide for some percentage increase every year?
Yes.
I believe it did, yes.
Okay, so is that reflected?
No, it's the same amount. So we make a note of that, Steve. See what the percentage is.
I mean, I don't think it's a huge amount, but it's something.
I think it's 5%.
Okay. That
We
was
just
all.
found some more money.
Not a whole lot, I think it's either 3 or 5%.
But it is changing for the first time in a long time, I think.
That should change it.
Right.
Did they vote on it?
But they also were paying for the American Center.
Yeah, they've, that's the one thing is that they have done they did their landscaping, they did a lot of things, they painted the building on their own, they never asked us when they painted it. Why was the
They're
great 10-rate tenants. So for us we definitely, by not asking for that increase, we still got our money because they've maintained that building for us.
It's leaking again, so we're
Yeah.
about to make another
Right.
investment.
Okay, is everybody done with that?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, next revenue section is fines and forfeitures. First line, code enforcement, we budgeted $8,500. And I know it's a little bit lower than the previous years, but just based off of, what we've seen this year, I brought it down about $1,500 from what we thought we were gonna get last year. Parks and Recreation, user fees, we brought that up to 500. I believe this is gonna be a new line item. Okay, it's not here this year. Okay, and then court fines, we brought that up to $1,800 for a total of $10,800 for fines and forfeitures. Any questions on that?
Mayor, just one
Yes.
question on line 41. This is the $64 question. We've talked about this for a long time, interest income. So we had $33,000 in the amended budget that we just did for the interest income. But we have not yet put the reserve funds into an interest-bearing account or other instrument. Would that be correct?
Oh, yeah, we haven't done anything with that.
Okay, so basically for this year, we are not going to be receiving the $33,000 in the line that says amended budget 2024.
That's correct.
But as we go forward into next year, we're going to take care of that.
That's the intention.
Yes.
That's the intention.
Okay.
They've had their hands full trying to so I understand that. Go ahead.
Okay, but so whatever it is that we have in our amended budget, it's gonna be less than $33,000 for 2024. And then hopefully, there will be some kind of investment made. Right, that was all I had for that, thank you.
Next section is just other, and the first line item is law enforcement education, just $180. I believe that's every time somebody gets a ticket, a little bit gets put aside for law enforcement education. The next section is miscellaneous revenue. There were zoning permits and park fees that was budgeted there. That's going up into the, where's that going?
It's going into,
It's going up top here.
Yeah, the park fees is a new line, the zoning, it was getting put in here instead of putting into.
parks and user fees, right?
Yeah.
We're just trying to clean up. I found there's
HRs probably too.
Yeah, I found there was a lot of stuff coded wrong. People I guess just gave it their best shot trying to figure out what stuff was, but we can probably clean it up and do a little bit.
That's what happened when we don't have a finance director.
And too, a lot of people, you get people in and they have different thoughts on where stuff belongs, so we're trying to make everything, try to standardize everything where it's going.
So do we actually keep anything in that line? I mean, if everything goes in the correct categories, it seems like there really shouldn't be $28,000.
We'll look at that.
You have to keep, but I believe, we have to still keep the line, don't?
We'll have the line.
Yeah, we
We
have to
don't-
keep the line,
There
yes,
shouldn't be anything in there. I mean, if everything goes in the right categories.
yeah.
Yeah, I take a look at that. All right, I guess total revenues, that was the last revenue section, so we're looking at 2.348696 is our total revenue for next year.
Mary, I have one question.
How much did you say?
2,348,000.
Okay, I thought you said 100.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Doriga.
Okay, line 47 that says ARPA. There's just 18,800 in the first line for 2022, the first column, and it's not showing anywhere else. And then on the fund balance page, that was handed out, it's a separate page, we didn't have a number or any accounting of the ARPA funds. I don't know, can you, what is that line out? Line 47?
What is those ARPA fund, the 18,800, what is that?
Well, I know what the ARPA funds
Oh.
are, and I know they were $768,000 that we received from the federal government directly. And I know that they have been misallocated in the budget over the past several years that popped up in different line items. I think, Charles.
They're still sitting in the water fund.
Right, if I'm remembering correctly. So, right, if there's 18,800 in that 2022 line, where's the rest of that?
Well, the historical data, we need to update that because we got 2 checks, 21 and 22. So we should have half that amount in that line. But back then, when the first check got put into the Better Place fund, then we had to move it and end up in water and some in wastewater. So this doesn't reflect where that money is sitting. We're not anticipating any new ARPA revenue for the coming year.
Right, but I'm saying, is the 18,800 for 2022, is that the right number, or it should be a different number?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll put a little asterisk there. Okay, and I understand that we would not be receiving further funds, they've been received. Okay. That was all I had for that, thank you.
All right, then we're gonna start, these are the expense categories next. We're gonna start with city commission. We've got 44,893 budgeted for salaries. We have FICA taxes related to that. We have retirement related to that. And then we've got commissioner training, $1,500 for each commissioner and the mayor. Advertising.
And we bumped that up because that's not, 1,200 doesn't even cover your Florida League of Cities conference typically. So we're recommending a slight increase.
And actually, so that comes out, $300 for each of us, that comes out to a $1,500 increase just for commissioner training, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
We've got advertising, and then the last, we have 6,000 aid to private organizations, and 5,000 of that was the mobile stay neuter clinic, that was discussed at the last commission meeting. And then there's just a kind of another fund that's just, it's kind of a catch-all for miscellaneous item supplies for a total of $73,627.
Okay, do you have any questions on this?
Mayor, I have a request about line 55. I think I mentioned this at a different workshop or meeting. On line 55, where it says retirement, and we're talking about city commission, actually 2 things. First, if there could please be a footnote that reflects, these are payments to retired commissioners who served previously. When commissioners received a retirement benefit.
Right, so how do you want that noted on there?
But just however, the finance director.
Can you put a footnote down here? Can you put a footnote down here at the bottom? She asked before if we have a footnote for that. How do you want that worded, Commissioner Vito?
Well, I'm not concerned about the exact wording, but I think it should reflect that it's not a retirement contribution for currently serving commissioners, because we don't get a retirement benefit. Nobody serving currently.
We can put a note in there. We also didn't add Commissioner Banks to that, so we'll.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, it's not a contribution to a retirement fund for those contributions.
We understand that, we got
Yeah,
that,
we got
that. Can you please make a footnote that this is for former, yes.
Okay, well, hold on, because there's a big difference. But also, if you're budgeting for 2025, if we have another commissioner retire who's eligible for retirement benefits, then, well, it would be, the benefit is, as far as I know, this is for 2 commissioners, it would be an additional 2,400.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay.
It's a raise.
Well, I don't know which commissioner that might be, but if it happens, then there would be more money in that line.
We thought you were gonna donate that back.
Yeah, no, he is definitely earn that plus, so anyway. Okay, do we have any other questions on this? So, and typically we do the 500, and my understanding is the library has put in their request for the 500. Is that correct?
Yes, that's on your agenda for next week.
And it's 500, okay. Okay,
Next section is city manager. Do you want to do that, Charles?
Yeah, I can go through that.
Or if you want, I can go through.
Basically, really no change, other than the new calculations for FICA and payroll and so forth. The workers' comp is just an estimate. Of course, that was way over budget, I think, last year. So we're only at 218 this year. And then the other changes are, we had, in the budget amendment, we had upped the office supply and operating supplies a little bit, so that's reflected here. And then a reduction in my portion of the telephone internet. We just recalculated that, spreading that over across depending on the number of users. And then
Versus Karen Hayes is being allocated to the salaries account, is that correct?
yeah, she was improperly allocated last year. So it doesn't show accurately. The year-to-date expenditures isn't, that's one of the reasons we didn't show it when we sent it out. It needs so many adjustments. Her salary was coming out of salary line with mine instead of the second line where it was allocated, budgeted from. So that's why it shows only $3,500 spent today, year to
So
date.
the budget for this reflects the.
So that'll be
correct
fixed.
line.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then in my budget, the employee incentive line,
It's a Christmas.
that's the Christmas party primarily. So we're showing an actual little reduction in my budget based on the amended budget.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Mayor, for line 73, workers' comp, Charles, if you could go over that again, because I'm not seeing, what is the explanation? It was shown as 8,700, and you said it went way over the.
It was over budgeted. So we put too much money in there. The way I wanted it to be is spread out on the number of personnel. So obviously, I had no claims. I had no claims, so year-to-date is zero. And Karen and I had no claims for workers' comp. So actually, you had one claim, didn't you? Hurt your back in the park.
Yeah, they did some, they assessed me and.
So Steve can tell you, we recalculated to get a more accurate spread of workers' comp.
Okay, so that's more accurate, but then, okay, health and life insurance, that was my question was really, there were several lines last year that were unexpectedly higher. One of them was just liability insurance, correct?
Yes, the
What
insurance, yeah. There's the auto and auto insurance as well and general liability.
Okay,
That's
so,
down on line 81. Property general insurance, isn't that what you're talking
Just
about?
talking about health and life.
well, okay, so auto property general insurance, so you folks are already budgeting, quite a bit more for this year. And
Yes.
in other words, you're budgeting for an increase. But, when it comes to health and life insurance up on line 72, are you budgeting for an increase there, or you don't feel that it's necessary for this year?
How I budgeted, I looked at what the actual number was through June and then projected another 3 months to kind of figure out where we were. And since we don't really know what the increase is going to be, it's based on a 10% increase, and it just happened to be exactly what they budgeted last year.
Okay,
That's how that calculation works.
so do we know the last time that we had an unexpected increase, was it more than 10%? Or was it ballpark 10% increase?
I don't remember what it was for health insurance versus the auto and liability.
I know in the past, it's made some pretty big jumps. So that was just, just based on what I've seen in the past, that was just to get a number in here, and then hopefully we'll get an estimate here pretty soon on what they expect it to be.
Here's our health and life benefit.
Okay, but I mean,
Who's our vendor for that? That doesn't.
Sheila would know. She said they, I think it's September, October, we renew, so they should be getting hold of us pretty soon to sit down and talk about that.
Yeah, we'll tweak those.
That was all I had, Matt. Thank you.
Anybody else? Everybody good? Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, next section is gonna be finance. We have, salaries, 70,750, staff salaries of 77,204. Budget overtime 500, Christmas bonus of 300, employee incentives of 500, FICA, Medicare retirements, health insurance, we have 26,650, workers' comp, $653, travel per diem of $2,000. We've got education and training of $400, office supplies, $3,500. Got IT support, $8,000, IT licenses is $400. General insurance, liability insurance is $9,600. Operating supplies is roughly $2,000. Membership and dues is $500. Audit fees is $10,400. The audit fees get divvied out amongst a bunch of departments, and I believe the number was $55,000. Roughly for the 2025 audit, so that's what I kind of based that off of, just took that and divided it by how many departments get a chunk of that. And then we have professional services, $2,000, telephone internet, $4,500, for a total of $253,000, $48.
For professional service, that's our law,
Excuse me?
that's our law.
No, this is
No, that's a separate, professional services for finance would be like our CPA. We,
Yeah. IT, where is it? IT licenses, we dropped that to 400. Looks like we've only paid 103 so far this year, so I guess we.
And a lot of, there was a lot of, like the smaller stuff like Adobe, a lot of that was up in that IT support line.
Okay.
So I was trying to go through and just try to pull out everything that doesn't belong up in there. It seemed like in the beginning of the year, there was a lot of that, and then May or like January, February, March, it started to get cleaned up a little bit, so I was just trying to.
Because the IT support line should really just be what we pay, whatever it's.
monthly.
Mark from
And
Inspire.
yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly, that's the only thing.
Although that does include our
That includes
memberships or our subscriptions
licenses,
to
yes.
Microsoft
Yes.
365 that we pay monthly, but the rest of it, Adobe and all that should be in the other line.
Yeah, the IT licenses, yes, Adobe.
So you just take that monthly charge and separate it between the departments for the IT support.
Yeah, just trying to get it where it needs to be, because the state's got specific, they're pretty picky where you post your expenses. So we're just trying to keep everything.
And when I was looking at that Inspire thing, we pay for 17 memberships to Microsoft 365. Do we have 17 employees that use that?
Yes.
I mean, because all of us use it for email. I mean, I have my own at home. I mean, is there a different level that we can go to for some of us? Because if we just need it for email, that seems like a lot of money. That's $5 a month throughout the year. It ends up being $13,000 or something that we pay for Microsoft 365, which
I'm not
That's a
familiar with
huge
the
suite of
subscription
programs.
levels.
I just was wondering if we can look into that. Because I mean, I know I use it, I don't know if everybody else uses, you use your Excel or PowerPoint, your OneDrive, all of that.
Back in the city, I guess you can email.
Right.
Karen, can you check with Mark and see if there's a subscription where it's email only? That'd be for the
I
commissioner.
think when he explained it to me, and how he explained it to me was, because I did ask him about that before, when we first started, I think Commissioner Burt, you were part of that conversation, where we started saying, wait a second, you can get 5 contracted licenses off of one subscription. I think he said you each have to have one,
Yeah, you-
because you each have to have Word to open up,
But they might be
whatever we send them.
There might be different levels. Now, all of us have
Yeah.
our own, I mean, I pay for my own Microsoft 365 family membership than I always have, and it's already paid through.
Just check with them again.
Yeah. it's
Well,
paid.
I'm gonna pay for mine at the house from my
Yeah.
personal
It
computer,
just seems
but
a waste to pay $5 a month for each one of us every single month, if that's not really necessary. I don't know if there's, I know Microsoft has options, it just seems like that would be a place we could save some
I'll
money.
ask them. I'll talk to them.
where we go to operating supplies and we've dropped that down $2,500, even though we've only spent year to date, it looks like 1543. In the past, if you look at, I know you don't like to, Steve, but I'm just concerned about that. Will that provide us with enough? I mean, I know you've been very frugal, as far as pens and recycling pens and old pens and pens that really don't, I know we've done that, but with our operating supplies, is that gonna suffice?
Well, this is finance, she has room, there's another line for.
Well, that's true, this is for finance, so Steve, is that gonna suffice for them over there?
For our department?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Somebody bought in bulk, I guess last year, the year before, we've got a lot of.
Oh, so you have a lot of stuff over there?
Yeah, we
So we
got,
know where to go look when we need a pen?
oh, yeah.
They got a stash.
Yeah, you need paper, we've got paper and toner cartridges, yeah, so many bought
Okay,
by
so
the
my
pallet.
pens, I'm like shaking it to try to get the ink in the bottom, now I know where to go.
Well, actually, there's a bunch of spots over here too.
Yeah, those are the ones that have shaked out.
How are they?
Go ahead.
Um,
Yes, Commissioner DeVito.
I just have one question. Speaking of, allocating things appropriately and blah, blah, blah. And that professional services line, 106, that Commissioner Banks asked about. So we pay for Unicode out of the finance department? Is that normal?
That one I'm gonna have to look into, that's where that was put in the past, so I'll take a look at that.
Okay. I mean, I have no idea, but,
Because there's an ongoing annual fee, right?
There is, yeah.
right,
That could come out of City Hall or.
that's the $2,000, I think that Steve has an information about the annual fee. I'm just wondering, is that the usual place for the Unicode? Or- Okay.
All right, next section is going to be legal. We've got $48,000 for contractual fees, zero for other legal services, and then $5,000 for outside legal counsel for a total of $53,000.
Right, and Mayor, if I could, ma'am,
Yes.
the footnote is correct. It says, there's 3 lines there. It says, other legal services covers anticipated legal fees for the commissioners. But the legal fees for the commissioners are in the outside legal counsel line. And I don't know how you correct something when it's not been done correctly in the past.
We need a journal entry, I think.
But those are flipped.
Okay.
Those fees that are listed in 112, they weren't paid for extra outside legal help to assist our city attorney. They were for the other legal services, for legal fees for commissioners.
So the outside legal needs to go to other legal services.
Yeah, I think those lines are reversed.
There's no money in other legal services, so
We're just putting that moving that up.
so you'd have to separate those two, you'd have to separate the two.
What the footnote says is that.
I know what the footnote
So we
says,
just need to move that money up.
that's what I'm saying, you have to put that money up and then keep the other money there, separate those two entities.
Because we usually budget a small amount for other legal services. I think one year it says 2024, the $2,000 sounds like what Bobby Pickens may have asked for, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, well, I know when Jay had it, I think it was like 2 or 5, 3,000.
Something.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 2 and 5. So, I don't know, some of those fees were for commissioner legal fees. And I don't know, there might have been some that were for actual outside legal counsel to assist the city attorney. but not $47,000. That's just not happening.
I have a legal physical, we are still under the same fund, right?
This is,
Yes.
this is for my outside legal for the
Yeah, I
lawsuit.
mean, 37,000 really was for our recalls last year,
And recalls.
quite frankly.
Yes, sir.
In my case, still don't know.
In your case.
My case has been appealed.
My case is handled by the,
For League of Cities.
Florida League of Cities, yeah, so, and they took care of that, and, yeah, that one's by the Florida League of Cities.
Okay, ready for utility bill?
Not my recall, not the recall, but the other, the lawsuit.
Okay, next section is utility billing. We have 49,140 for salaries, 103,827 for staff salaries, overtime of 500, Christmas bonus of 400, FICA, Medicare, health insurance, employee testing, workers' comp, professional services, $200, telephone and internet is $4,500, postage, $12,800, liability insurance, $1,800, vehicle repair and maintenance, $2,000, equipment repair and maintenance, $3,000, IT support, $8,000, IT hardware and licensing, $400, office supplies of $4,000, operating supplies of $600, gas and oil, $3,000, employee incentive, $500, and membership training, $300, for a total of $253,191.
Have we have any questions?
Yeah, I'm with, Christmas bonus, how long that been on that $50?
It's $100
It's $100 now?
per person. Yeah, it's been that way since I've been here.
Oh, cool, okay, well, I'm not asking you that. Well, I've been saying, you've been saying $50 for years. Okay. All right.
Next section, if we're ready to move on, is planning and zoning. We've got $5,000 for other professional services, and then $65,000 for consulting fee, for a total of about $70,000.
Well, can you just explain what those are for?
The consulting fee, I believe that's for like Mid-Tower.
For Zeb Cohen and Mid-Hour,
Yeah,
anything
Mid-Hour.
planning and zoning. We get some of that back in the zoning fees revenue.
that goes
But we're
to-
anticipating more growth. Yeah. We'll have as these projects are built, we're gonna pay them to go inspect the site when it's done, so the site improvements were done per the plans and so forth, so there'll be more.
Professional services for,
This would come under the consulting fee, and Zeb Cohen does that as part of their service. They charge us by the hour.
but what's the difference between the two?
Oh, the other professional services would be like a survey or an appraisal or anything related.
Okay, next section is City Hall. We have workers' comp of $4,800, professional services of $23,500. A majority of that is Julianne Klein, that's the CPA. She's that's the majority of what that is. Piece of the audit is $10,400. We have a pension consultant of $2,500. Telephone and internet, $4,500. Utilities, $12,000, rental and leases, $3,300, liability insurance, $39,200, building repair and maintenance, $10,000, equipment repair and maintenance, $2,000, advertising is $7,000, other $5,000, beautification is $8,000, IT support $2,800, or $2,822, IT licenses $500. Operating supplies of $3,300, accounting and billing software, $16,000, office supplies of $2,500, and we have a transfer to the CRA that's $152,970.
So the advertising in this section is something we might be able to cut as we're looking, because we don't use as much as we budget between this and the commission agenda. We end up with a lot more advertising money than we've needed. So that's a possible spot to make a cut.
And the workers' comp, even says right here, the city hall need workers' comp.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
The workers' comp, the very first one, 147.
Yes,
Do we actually, who, is that, you said that was for Julianne, I don't know.
No,
No, is that-
Julianne,
I
it
think
says
so.
keep it, putting it there, the city hall needs
Right.
workers' comp, because you have it covered under the salary sections, correct?
Yeah,
That's what I was-
and that's what I was just wondering if there's, should there be a portion allocated to City Hall? So we're looking into that. Yeah, Julianne is the next line down, 149, she's under professional services.
Okay, that's what I was confused about.
And we feel like, I mean, as Julianne, how much longer do you think we'd be using Julianne?
Well, certainly through the end of the audit, as we're wrapping up the audit. And then you'll see at the enterprise fund, she's working out untangling that. So I would hope after that, if Steve's more and more comfortable, we'll be able to wean off of her services.
Mayor,
And we've already been able to wean off of them a little bit now.
She's working mostly on the audit at this point.
Yes.
but, so, that was my inquiry also. So do you have a projected, like, date, like through 2025 or, sooner? Or when you say through the audit, which audit,
The current audit,
which concludes?
hopefully at the end of
Anytime.
August.
Yeah, hopefully.
So then she'll finish straightening out. I would hope by the end of the first quarter of next year or into the second quarter, we can probably just have her on an as-needed basis if there's something
Okay, and
odd.
as- Right, and as the mayor said, the amount was reducing, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And for anybody, just to know that we are audited every year.
Yes.
By Florida law, we are audited every year.
The new audit will start January. We need to call her back in to help.
Again, there's some question out there, but we are audited every year, a full-blown audit, correct, Steve?
Oh, yeah,
It's-
yeah.
They look at those pins we've
Everything.
even shaken, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, we've got a request list, 100 items long.
There's a line here about Edmunds Software and Information Management System. But it's,
Oh, line 167?
yes,
Yeah, that's the software system we're using, utility billing, accounting, finance.
and we're increasing that. What did it say, 10,000? Yeah, we're budgeted 16,000.
Yeah, we budgeted 16,000 for that, yes.
Is that to replace it or to?
No, that's just the
That's the
ongoing
same
budget.
as what we did last year, I mean,
Yeah, it's like the annual
No, that's
subscription.
to 6,000.
oh, yeah, you're right, our amended, when we amended it, it was 16,000, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That was because there was-
My eyes were- Yeah,
A lot of training and other things are updating. I'm just trying to get it.
That's just the software stuff, and also there's something called the Information Management System Service. I guess that was the previous
that was
software
our previous one.
that we can't get rid of because I guess things weren't brought in, some things weren't brought into admin, so everybody's gotta go back and they have to go back and reference that other software system.
So we're paying for two softwares,
Yeah,
two software packages.
They were supposed to, I thought this last year, Jocelyn, I thought this last year that we were dropping IMS.
I think at some point we're going to.
Yeah, I thought that they had.
We still need it where we're-
Obviously, they haven't.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
investigating a few
About
things.
that, she said, I guess we can't right now because I guess they're still going back and looking, but maybe we'll have to wean ourselves off of it at some point here because it's apparently a lot of money.
It is,
Yeah.
it is, just to make sure that they're not doing the same service, providing the same services, that we're not overlapping that.
Yeah, I believe the old system, that's just kind of like an archive. If they have to go back and look for any kind of utility billing information, they have to go back and look in there. But I don't think they're providing any new services to us. I think it's just like an
Can we-
archive.
Can we look talk to Edmonds about why they haven't been able to roll all that information over? I mean, because I would think that for us to have to maintain that.
Well, we're still investigating some overpayments by customers.
Okay.
So we have to keep those records until we finish that
Should they
investigation.
report them into Edmunds and just copy the information? I mean, it seems like,
Sometimes it's not as easy as that.
Well, no.
Different software is different software.
I use the IRMS for,
That's what.
business tax receipts. I go back into it.
If you use Macintosh, you don't use
voice.
Still, there should be, I mean, it doesn't make sense to be paying for two software.
You're still using IMS
I don't input anything into it. What I do is I go in
from
there,
history?
if I need, if, say the person across the street wants a business, I go back in to see if he actually had one in the past. And if he owes any money, I can carry it over to Evans. That's why I use it.
But I don't think we're paying for the full service of IMS.
No,
We're still paying for the admins with the contract, that was before, that was under a different administration, but it just seems like it has just been,
Right, that was when Patrick Kennedy was
I
here.
wasn't naming names.
No, that's okay. But what I'm saying is it was a process, and I remember it very well. The staff did a lot of research, they recommended Edmonds, but then over time, there were things that didn't work out as they had expected or hoped.
Yes.
And, it was a process, and everybody did the best they could, but,
It was a
There
lot
were-
of money,
right, and there were new things that came up.
but
Okay, next category is law enforcement. We have $494,825 for the contract for the Putnam County Sheriff.
That's the same as last time.
Yes.
And we have that up for renewal, right?
Yes, and they're renewing at the same rate.
That's
Next category is going to be fire. We have $26,328 for salaries, $29,484 for staff salaries, Christmas bonus of $200, a bonus of $4,200, employee incentives of $500, FICA, Medicare, life insurance, workers' comp, telephone, we have liability insurance, building repair and maintenance, $2,500, vehicle repair, $7,000, equipment repair, $2,000, volunteer incentives, $485,000. Other categories, just miscellaneous supplies, $500, IT support of $2,800, IT licensing, $400, operating supplies of $2,000, gas, oil, and tires of $2,500, and training of $1,500 for a total of $171,471.
This is he's always very good at staying under budget. From when I looked at the, I mean, on all the,
A lot of those employee incentives, volunteer incentives, he hasn't used, so that's an area we may
is that,
trim.
yeah, we can take that maybe down to 35,000. Drop
Yeah,
it.
for the last
drop
2
it.
years, we haven't touched, we haven't bought.
We would still be, still be in good shape with that, and that would take, that would give us 10,000.
we might want to talk to the chief and ask him about that.
Yeah.
And I could just,
So,
Well, I'm not gonna, I just said that that's something that,
Right.
that Charles would have to talk to the chief.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk to the chief, Charles would have to talk to the chief and see, is that something that he could work within? Is that, if we needed to do that? Yes, Commissioner Rita?
so 2 questions. The easy one is first, that's line 197, gas, oil, and tires. I noticed that is pegged at $500 less for 2025, but wasn't gas one of the items that we kind of went over budget in prior years? I mean, do we feel that that's realistic? That's all I'm asking.
See, you based that on the year-to-date spending, right?
Correct, yes.
I mean, I don't know what we're, looking to see in terms of future gas prices, but that's certainly something the fire department has to have. And then the other thing is, our fire chief is part-time. This comes up every now and then. In some ways, we need to plan for the future because our fire chief is part-time and he works full-time for, I believe, the city of Daytona Beach. So I got the right entity. I have no idea where the fire chief is in his career path in Daytona, but, we're getting a lot of services at, and I think a very reasonable amount. So at some point, I think we have to look into the future and, I don't know, think what would happen, if we can't have that same arrangement.
He's discussing, considering retirement next year. So we'd be looking for another part-time fire chief at this point to take his place.
Well, see? So, things are coming up, okay?
Code enforcement.
Okay, code enforcement, salaries, $25,799, Christmas bonus of $100, FICA, Medicaid, retirement, telephones, $100, we have IT support of $2,800, IT licensing, $2,000, we have gas, oil, and tires at $1,500, operations and abatement, $5,000, membership and training, $1,600, for a total of $43,665.
That was 5,000 for operations and maintenance. Which is 500.
Excuse me?
I'm hungry, I'm sorry.
We're almost there.
No, we're almost there.
Public Works, streets.
Public Works, all right.
Well, I just have a question, why is she getting less money for her salary?
I think it was miscalculated last year, wasn't it? This includes a 5% increase.
Yeah, this does include a 5% increase, that, I don't know what was going on with the budget number.
I had him go back to the hourly rate and recalculate.
So you just want that to be correct?
Yeah, I asked him to recalculate from scratch. I don't know what Dale did last year, but,
Okay.
Yeah, we went through and everybody.
I mean, that's pretty noticeable, if I was code enforcement officer, I'd say, why are you taking money away from me, that's all. So,
Yeah, some of the budget numbers, I think we're just over budgeted, somewhere under budgeted, so.
And Mayor, I also have a question about the code officer. So, I noticed the footnote says our code officer works 30 hours a week. So 2 questions there. One thing that Ms. Taylor was going to do was, I think, catch up the, I guess, the record keeping in the code department, that things weren't entered properly. Has,
she here? Is she okay?
yeah, Ms. Taylor is here. I just wonder, how is that going? Are we caught up, or is that gonna be, a multi-year project?
Still currently working on the liens, catching up all the liens and notifying people that they have liens on their property.
Right, because I think the paperwork just, it wasn't where it should be, correct?
The old cases?
Yes.
Those come up on a case-by-case basis. Some of them don't have anything in the file.
There was a file and that was an Excel spreadsheet, but now she has. The new software is working okay for you?
Yes, it is.
Do you have everything rolled into the new software yet?
The old stuff?
Yes.
No.
You don't, okay. Are you going to?
No.
Okay. Does it have that capability to do that?
Yes, it does.
I believe so.
Well, why wouldn't we?
It'd take hundreds of hours to do that.
Well, I mean, if it's current, I mean, if it's something that we're still working on, if something were to happen to you, that would make sense to me, that if it's still an active case.
Oh, an active case, they're in there.
Okay,
Anything that's active is in the new system. Anything that's,
even if it's active from like 5 years ago, it's in the new system, correct? Is that correct?
no, I haven't put all of them in there yet. I'm still working on that.
Okay, okay, and then Mayor, to follow up on your question, are all the liens that exist in the new system?
No.
Or no, so some active cases aren't in the new system and some liens aren't in the new system.
Correct.
Okay, and then my other question is on, and I know that you're working very diligently on that, and you brought it to our attention. My other question is, the code officer works 30 hours a week, and it's between the regular business hours, correct?
Yes.
Do we get many calls or whatever, from people that try to report something over the weekend or in the evening hours or something like that?
Not very often. We have an email system that's on our webpage. I think I've received 1 email this year.
Okay, all right, that was all the questions.
So,
But people can call and leave a message, a voicemail for you, right? On the weekends?
Well, I'd actually like to see it set up where people can't just call in, but people actually have to fill something out. It said, and put an actual complaint in and fill it out. And that way we know that it's official,
We have a form
because
now.
right now it's not official.
We have a form now that they have to sign the form to be an official complaint.
So I guess my question is, I don't even know if I have a question. When do we anticipate that the new system will have the old information or the lien information that we still have out there? Because if something happened, I mean, nobody's guaranteed tomorrow, if something happened, we'd be right in the same situation with somebody having to go in and trying to figure out what's what.
Clerk of the court has all the liens recorded, so if it came up, you could always check the clerk of the court.
Okay.
That's what I did to find them.
Okay.
So how long does it take though? I know some of these been going on for years, everything.
Yeah.
And when do you kind of call it quits? What's the, I mean, why does it take years to get these liens off of some of these homes?
Well, some of them are homesteaded, I'm sure, and they can't do anything with it.
So a lot of people say they don't know that they're there.
Well,
Okay.
Not compliant, some of them.
Have we done anything, I mean, do we do like on an annual basis? Do we send something out on an annual basis to people that have outstanding liens that,
I'm working on doing that on a yearly basis. Yes.
yeah, so they get that, so we don't hear that from them, that they didn't even know that they're being charged $25 or $50 a day?
Right.
Because that adds up
Yes, it does.
quickly,
And then we have to write it off
and yeah,
if we really do.
okay.
Okay, next section, if we're ready, is Public Works.
I have one question. The special magistrate, do we have a line for
Yeah,
that?
well, I have that too, special
Under three
magistrate.
lines.
Yeah, make a note of that, Steve. We'll create a line for that.
How has that gone so far? We've had, what, one hearing?
Two.
Pam,
Yeah, it's been going great.
how's the special magistrate been working out?
Very good.
Okay.
We've had 2 hearings, one in June and one in July.
And what does that cost us?
It's,
$500 a month,
500?
I believe so. That's correct, Steve? 500.
I haven't seen the expenses for that, so I have to ask,
Oh, okay.
I'll get with Roberta.
And I believe it's 500.
And you would foresee us having one every month during the next fiscal year, most likely, or maybe skip a few months, or?
I thought we were looking at like every other month.
Yeah.
We started every other month, and I think next year we'll probably follow the same every other month.
Okay.
So it's 6.
So 6,000 more?
That's what I think when we were approving that, that's what we were looking at.
yeah, our first one got canceled, so
3,000.
we ended up with 2 in a row.
Yeah.
3,000.
Bank was canceled.
Okay. I know when we approved it, that's what we were looking at, from a
Right.
budgetary standpoint, that it would be every other
We have
month.
one scheduled for September 10th and one for November. I'm not sure what day it is in November.
so now these are going to court and being settled?
No,
So they're going to the
To the
magistrate.
magistrate, and then from the magistrate, has anything, I mean, have they been settled, I guess?
The one case that we heard that was new has not come into compliance. Fine started a few weeks ago.
Okay.
I'm gonna file the lien tomorrow with the clerk of the court. This past month in July, we heard 2 lien reduction cases that will come before you in August.
That's what I was curious, I just haven't seen anything yet.
And the special magistrate made a recommendation on both of them.
Thank you.
Next section is Public Works. Salaries, we have 16,150. Staff salaries of 95,350. Overtime of 1,000. Christmas bonus of 200. FICA, Medicare, retirement, health insurance, workers' comp. Streetlights is $32,000. Traffic lights, 5,000. Liability insurance of 38,500. Building repair and maintenance of 2,000. Tree maintenance of 10,400. Vehicle repair and maintenance of 1,000. Is that equipment repair maintenance of $5,100, small tools of $1,000, operating supplies of $6,000, gas, oil, and tires, $9,000, street repair supplies of $10,000, and improvements other than buildings, $1,000, for a total of $291,800.
And far away from me to question your estimates, but the 9,000 for tires as well, based on the 8,580 that were spent. Sorry.
No, that's okay, we can put a little more in there.
Well, that might have been one we trimmed to make the budget balance.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one?
Mayor, just, I do very quickly, there's a note on line 213 and 14 where it says salaries and staff salaries. Somehow I think an organizational chart would be helpful here. I'm assuming it really doesn't show on this page and then the next couple pages. Expenditures, exactly what the Public Works Director is in charge of. For example, when you go to the next page, page 18, is Parks and Rec under Public Works, actually? Okay, because it doesn't say Public Works on that page. And then it's not clear, when you look up the line identified 213 and 214, it's not really clear. It says the percentage allocated to streets for the different employees, but it doesn't say where the balance of their salaries are allocated. So,
Yeah, that's gonna be water and wastewater, I'll add that comment in there.
right, it's just not clear.
Yeah,
And, we have to keep in mind, like the mayor was saying, that this is a public document. So, there's a couple of places here to me where, well, that's not clear, and then there's a couple other places where it reads a little bit like an internal document. But as a public document, going up on that.
Keith, Ronnie, and one labor position they share, they're paid out of water, wastewater, and the general fund. So that's,
So could we have that as a footnote?
Are you gonna keep, I'm sorry, go ahead. You want to put-
I was just saying that the FTEs, the employees we have in each department, would also probably be helpful on each department. And that's where you could put on this one that they're shared between the three departments, perhaps.
comment?
okay.
Okay,
Well, ain't we short of help now?
Yeah.
We have one vacancy currently.
Do we still have that vacancy?
Yes, sir.
We don't have no application for it?
Not currently.
Okay.
We did some interviews, but we weren't satisfied. Yeah.
The
We hired Margarito, our newest guy. He's been excellent.
What is it, what the title would be?
It's just, what do we just call it? Public Works
The general
laborers?
Margarita,
Yeah, just
just general labor.
general labor. Yeah.
Okay.
And what is that, the hourly, what's the salary for that?
It's $15 an hour.
Okay.
And the receptionist position's open too, right?
Okay.
Yes, we have reception open also.
All right. Okay.
In this, with the public works on the streets for our, I guess I don't see anything in here that we can pull in, so if we needed our medians, there's maintenance there that we need. I'm just wondering if some of this, if we should contract it out.
We just need the money.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be looking to cut this.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But we, to me, I think we should let it burn. So we put our hands on that at all times.
Yeah, we feel that the position that's empty is the new one. So we get it filled. I think that'll
Take care of that.
another person, to take care of that.
Mayor, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, for speed bumps, if they didn't come out of the Better Place plan, is this the category where they would
Street supplies.
come up? Okay, because a resident from South Prospect Street stopped me the other day and said that, I think he said, if I understood it correctly, that he contacted City Hall and asked about speed bumps for South Prospect Street.
He did.
Okay, so there's that, and then I know that residents on Oakwood, south of Vernon, and I think Rocket had
They have one over there
I'm gonna put something for
on Oakwood.
a socket one.
between Magnolia and all that.
Whereabouts on Prospect?
Maybe it was one.
There's no, Oakwood doesn't, have Oakwood.
Down near,
Down by the duplexes.
yeah,
Right, it's that long straight stretch of South Prospect before it makes the turn to
After
17.
Orange,
After the last
And
stop.
they definitely want,
Stop.
they definitely want those there.
Well, that's one of the residents does. I mean, that's kind of the $64 question. Do other residents?
Oh, yeah, I think that should be.
Want it. But it had, usually one or two people. So anyway, I know there's a request out there.
Yeah.
Because they said they hadn't heard anything. But it would either be here or a better place, right?
correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
And I have one thing, I have to agree with the mayor as far as getting a contract for the medians. Sometimes, it's, in the long haul, it could be beneficial to get a contract for it. The city wouldn't have to pay everything, they just pay for a contract for somebody to do it. And, therefore, you don't pay the salary, you don't pay the healthcare, you don't pay all the things that go with having a full-time employee. And there's tons of, businesses out there that do just that kind of stuff. So it'd be worth looking at, I guess. To see if you can get somebody that can come in and be, that's what they do.
You get some prices on
You see what I mean?
Lawn maintenance or a crew that would just weed the medians month after month?
Just median.
And it's really more the growing, and so it's really this time of the year when the medians, when your weeds, they're popping up in your yard's growing. During the winter months, it's not that much, and our peanut actually has taken over here. And the peanut's really controlling it, it's performing the way it's supposed to perform.
Yeah.
And so but it's more during the growing season when things are just get a little hard to.
See what somebody would charge us as a comparison.
Yeah, just look at it, that's all.
Because it's important, I
It's
mean,
not a bad idea.
it's something that, as people drive through, and I don't know how many of you, but since our medians have looked so manicured when I go to other communities, that is the first thing I look at. And it just shows pride in the city. I think it shows a lot of pride in the city. And,
And I'm gonna say that, they've been looking pretty good, the peanuts are coming in. I was telling Keith the other day, I was so glad he picked peanuts now that I could see, what they actually are bringing to our medians. But I'm just saying that, we have to try and maintain it. If it gets out of control,
Yeah.
you've lost out all the work that we've done to get there, you've lost it all. And I think that's really not.
and that peanut is all over the state. I mean, I think I sent you pictures down in
Yeah.
Naples, that it's just blankets of yellow. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Beautiful, it's happy.
Move it, Larry.
Beautiful, yeah, they can do it that way. It's to that point, yeah.
But you gotta get it there, and if we just kind of keep letting it go and getting bad again.
Our peanut looks pretty, it's loriope, the weeds come up and the peanut, and the nut grass comes up in loriope. That's
Well,
a booger.
maybe some professionals out there may help you with that,
What was that, Commissioner DeVita?
Yes, hold on. So speaking of the difficulty of keeping up with not just medians, but we're always talking about how the city staff is behind on doing the edging and whatnot. And I think we've mentioned this before in past years. Seems to me that it would be helpful if we could get more homeowners and businesses to take care of their right of way, because some do and some don't. And, it would seem to me that every little bit would help. Maybe there's a way we could get the message out, keep city expenses low if you could maintain from here to the curb, because a lot of people, maybe some aren't just able, but maybe some don't think of it.
However, just basically say that city property, you don't have to, quite frankly, a lot of people are rude about it.
I think that sometimes if we could encourage them, if we could, I was even thinking that we could do you can be a volunteer and not even leave your yard. Be a volunteer about taking care of your portion of the yard. That's kind of the thing that I was working on, is be a volunteer without even leaving your yard. And we're not being critical of our staff. Our staff has a lot on them.
They will have to
They
do
really do, especially this time of the year, and they do a terrific job. They really do, especially when you go to other communities.
I'm curious when you say, well, you got one person that wants speed bumps down on South Prospect. You can hardly get through South Prospect between the peacocks, the turkeys, and I'm not talking the people turkeys. Okay, I mean, that place is jamming
South
with
Prospect,
traffic,
South
birds
Prospect.
and fowl and stuff, it's
Since they
crazy.
closed the school down.
Right.
Since they closed the school down, now before they closed the school, yes, we needed one desperately. Seldom do you get speeders down South Prospect
You can't do it
anymore, and especially with the peacocks, because everybody's,
Oh, yeah.
at a standstill, so.
Well, I don't know, I mean, we're kind of
That's something we
arguing
need to
with
get
somebody who's not here.
I'm not arguing with anybody, I'm just saying,
I know.
as we go forward, just
Just
looking at
surprised.
speed bumps, we need
Just
to
surprised.
take them pretty seriously and
But
where
it's,
they needed.
it's the end, but Mary, I just wanted to follow up what you said about pride in your city made me think of if we could just get more people maintaining the right of way in front of their property, that would take the burden. And I like your idea of, making it a point of pride and, that you're volunteering, but I mean, technically, aren't we all supposed to maintain
It's another
out to the street? Yeah, so it would be nice, I mean, every hour saved is an hour saved.
Yes.
And otherwise, we're paying taxes.
Let's do Parks and Rec.
Huh?
Let's do Parks and Rec.
Okay, let's go to Parks and Rec.
Okay,
Commissioner Banks, did you have something to say?
Or we just can get people who want to cut the yard to don't rake it on in the street.
That's right.
We used to,
I already got the school men's to our superintendents.
But they're doing that, yes.
Yeah, so they stopped blowing it out there, but they now started back blowing it out, it's already got a new outfit.
on the city used to, if you did not take care of your yard, you mowed it and then put a lien on it and charged them. That's still in our ordinances too. We started that in 2003, 2004, and it was kind of successful for a while. I don't know when we stopped doing that.
Well, I think first, Mayor, if I could, first we send a bill and that they'll pay the bill.
We moved it on, yeah, so we will.
Okay, so let's finish up. I think this is our last page.
Parks and Rec, yes.
fixed salaries, 31,200, overtime of 200, Christmas bonus of 100, employee incentives of 500, FICA, Medicare, retirement, health insurance, workers' comp, contractual services of $1,500, utility, service electric of $10,000, rentals and leases of $2,500, building repair and maintenance of $7,000, vehicle repair and maintenance of $1,000, equipment repair and maintenance of $8,000, other $1,800, operating supplies of $6,500, gas, oil, and tires of $6,000 for a total of $99,588.
With rentals and leases, we're talking about equipment?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that was also triggered around that.
Anybody have any questions on this?
Water and wastewater is enterprise funds, right? We're not doing that.
Yes.
No, I don't have a question, but just this page does not reflect that it's under Parks and Works. It says Parks and Recreation, but the city manager says this is part of Public Works, right? Okay,
Yes.
so maybe the page should reflect that.
I want to say this, since it's gonna be basically my last budget meeting.
Yes, sir.
If y'all commissioners were gonna be on this board, pay y'all employees. So we can keep.
I agree.
Do you see the other municipalities, I get a different page, and I love the news. I did complain because they don't have paid their employees, you gotta change the employees, if you don't pay the people, people going, to the next highest bidder.
That's a hard
And
one.
that always been Crescent City problem, always, they wanna have paid employees as a regular.
Well, Charles, since you've been here, you've been doing,
We've been putting 5% in every year. And then a few people, when we did the budgets, the salary survey, we brought some people up to their minimum for the market. So that, we just bring that to you as a finished amount.
so we've come a long way
Yeah.
compared to some years past.
Yeah, 5% is pretty generous, so that's really good, actually.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
especially in the state for several years, quite a few years, didn't even get any, there was no cost of living.
And we're at the minimum, the new minimum hourly early.
Yeah.
So we're just building up from
So
there.
we've met that.
Mayor, can I just say one thing? Commissioner Banks, thank you very much for saying that. You always give us a long view,
Yeah.
and it's important. Thank you.
But it's important, I mean, especially with some of that, I mean, I go out there and spend a day with them. I mean, that's what I would say. If you want to question what they do, go spend a day with them, especially right now in this heat and the responsibilities that they have, so. So I think before we end this, Charles, you need some direction from us, as to whether or not, with the budget, we didn't really look at cutting anything back, but if the commission wants to, we have an opportunity here.
If your direction is to shoot for the rollback, we will do that. So we'll revise the revenue numbers and highlight those. And then we'll revise, anywhere we cut, we'll highlight it so you can see where we trim. You may decide, I didn't want you to trim that. Let's take it somewhere else, but we'll highlight it so you can see. And then we'll aim, if it's your consensus, we'll aim for the rollback rate.
We can try for rollback, and if we don't make it, we can just do lower rate something.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
I would like to at least try.
As you do that, anything you change, can you put it in a different color, like?
Yeah.
So-
We'll-
Okay, wait a minute, no
You
dark
can't.
color.
It'd be yellow.
It would be yellow.
Yellow is hard to see too, though, but
Well, the darker color is just totally wipe out.
do it green. I think.
Well, yeah, the green is dark, because if you come out the second, it's really dark.
Okay, well, just do it whatever, just do it a different color. Aqua, aqua works so well, that's a light line.
Yeah.
It does, and plus it prints out nice too. You can
Aqua
actually see
does?
it, Yeah.
That's a good color, isn't it? I would like to see it, I would like to see a budget in that respect. Like, we've got a lot with our, our citizens they're bearing a lot right now that, the school increase has hit them this year, and it looks like they've got another one that's on the table tomorrow. That's going to be
heading to that meeting.
an additional increase tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Wednesday. Yes.
What is it?
Is that for garbage?
Is it 1.8?
No, it's the school district.
1.5 capital outlay mills is always been there.
Yeah.
There's no change to it, because that is the maximum that they can levy for infrastructure and capital expenditures. So that's always been there. It's not an increase. It's just like our increases.
It's like
If you
ours.
need the same tax rate, but they're bringing in more money because they're not rolling it back, but they have to use that 1.5 to pay for our portion of the new high school, because they have to raise 1 mil of property taxes to pay for our portion of the high school, which is like $5 million a year for the next 3 years.
Well, you know what?
So,
A lot of people do not vote to have a new high school or.
well, the high school's separate. The high school's not part of the bond. The
Yeah, it's
high
not part of the
school,
bond.
that's a special program through the state. But the bond is for our elementary school for these kids, for
The
the
elementary
children.
schools, we're benefiting the most in South Bend.
We really are, but that's still, it doesn't look like they're gonna be able to do a rollback. It looks like they're gonna have to maintain.
Yeah, oh, they're going to. They have to, because their portion paid the part.
Is everybody done?
Yeah.
Okay, this
You gotta say
work,
that.
Commissioner Vito, you good?
Good.
Okay, this workshop is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Our next one, Charles, is Monday.
Week from today, Monday, 3 o'clock. We'll be back.
It is in the